much. All right. So we are going to get the afternoon kicked off with the ever fun and most popular President of New Jersey, our national representative, who speaks on behalf of President Riccobono, Mr. Joe Ruffalo.
Yay! That'll work now. Once I turn it up. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
sir. Is that good? Okay.
No.
Discussing with Josh.
We're doing some housekeeping.
Staff meeting.
There we go. Put that over there. Now we're ready to go. Greetings from President Riccobono. He wished he could be here today, but couldn't, and he set me in his place. So I hope I do him well. So we tried this yesterday. We're going to try it again today. I want you to repeat after me. Say, hey.
Hey!
How you doing?
How you doing?
You guys do better than people in New Jersey. Very good. So let's try it one more time. Ready? Hey.
Hey!
How you doing?
How you doing?
What's it to you?
What's it to you?
No, that doesn't make sense. No,
You talking to me?
there you go. My wife Judy's here, and my son will be with us later today with his wife at our banquet. This is greetings from President Riccobono, and greetings from the Ruffalos. This area, the people that we've met so far, are so polite.
Yes.
Again, we're from New Jersey, New York. We think we're polite there, but you guys are really polite. So we thank you for your kindness, your hospitality, your warmth, and your Krispy Kreme donuts. Where'd you get those? Now, this is my 35th opportunity to serve as a national representative. 35 times I've been to many different states, and I always say this is the best state I've been in.
Yay!
Now, I said that 34 other times, 34 states too. No, but seriously, you guys are great here. Super nice. So let me tell you a little bit about Mark Riccobono. As you know, he's our president. And when a couple years ago at a national convention, we do roll call of states. How many have been to national conventions? How many are going this year? Excellent. Well, we do roll call of states, and you give what you give, and you do what you say, and at the end, you make it known where your convention's got to be and all that good stuff. So when it was my turn to speak at the end of my little presentation, I said, Mr. Riccobono, I know you're a busy man. We need to step up and volunteer. So I'm offering myself to volunteer to be national rep for Hawaii. And people kind of chuckled and laughed. And as far as it went, about 3 weeks later, I'm at a Bell event. I get a phone call from Beth, the secretary. And he says, Joe, Mark wants to talk to you for a minute. I said, sure. So I got on the phone. I said, we are at the Bell program. I told him what we were doing. I said, Joe, 2-3 weeks ago at the convention, you mentioned you mentioned that you would volunteer to be the national rep for Hawaii. I said, yes, I did. He said, well, I got a lot of calls from some of the old timers, some people on the boards that said that was very unprofessional and it wasn't the right thing to do. So I said, Mark, know me. I like to fool around and kid around. Give me the names of who I hurt, shall we say. I will call each one of them up and apologize. No need to do that. I did that already. And then he went on talking about different things. And then he brought it up again. And that's on my mind. I'm not here to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm here to have some fun. Mark, please give me the names. I will call them. No, Joe, we took care of it. He says, by the way, today's my birthday. I said, oh, yeah, that's right, it is. Well, happy birthday to you. He says, I want you to be part of my birthday wish. If I can, I will. Well, I think you can. My birthday wish is to send you and Judy to Hawaii. So my remarks was this. I said, Mark, you dog. I said, you pulled a Joe Ruffalo on a Joe Ruffalo. That's not fair. So, of course, I called my wife up and told her that, I said, you want to come to the convention with me this year in October? Oh, I'm not sure. Maybe not. Where are you going? I said, Judy, it doesn't matter where I'm going. Either you come as the first lady of New Jersey or you don't. It doesn't matter where we're going. Well, okay. Then I don't know if I'll go or not. Well, that's fine. I'll go to Hawaii by myself. Hawaii! Are you kidding me? So we do have a sense of humor. We really do. We really do. So anyway, that's that little story. Now we know about our 1 minute speech about raising expectations. So important. How many of us over the years had our expectations kick us in the shit? Raise your expectations. Live to your potential, whatever your potential is. Raise your expectations every day. Barriers are always before us. Turn those obstacles into opportunities. Because you can live the life you want. We know that. Blindness does not hold us back. My favorite of the whole 1 minute speech, I always add it on because it's so true. Together. Everyone in this room together working as a team, together with your state agency, with your friends, your neighbors, together with love, hope, and determination, we certainly can transform dreams into reality. Certainly we can. You agree to that?
Yes, sir.
Great. Now, I should say, past President, Dr. Mark Maurer is still at the center, working hard, supporting our president. He's our chief counsel, which I think he really likes that, to get into those good lawsuits that we have going on, But what President Riccoboni would like to know from us here, from the president and from our chapter presidents, what are some of the innovative programs that you're going to be doing here? Who are some of the key leaders, potential leaders in your state? I have a couple names I already have written down. So I'll be talking to them on Monday, telling them that I won the largest door prize. So make sure I win one. But we're here to help each other. And I come to these things all the time, 35 times, and I'm supposed to be teaching. I hope I do some teaching. But I'm here to learn. I learn a lot from you guys. I learn that you care about one another. That each one will bring one next time, correct?
Correct.
All right. That the next time you eat M&Ms, you'll think of something. What's he talking about? Well, let me tell you what I'm talking about, M&Ms. Plain or peanut doesn't matter. Every time you eat an M&M, M&M, think of how to raise money and how to gain membership.
All right.
So every time you eat an M&M, how can we fundraise? Where can we find members? And remember, we heard earlier this morning about mentors and mentees. That's like being a teacher and a student. The first two letters in mentor are what? M-E. And a mentee, what are the first two letters? So it starts with me and you to reach out to people. We've talked about this before. How many of us in this room, just think about the answer, were asked, invited to come to a chapter meeting or a state convention?
Right here.
I can probably say, without going around the room and asking, I'd say 90% of us were approached that way. Is that correct, you think?
Yep, sir.
So if someone took the time out to provide us the gift of the National Federation of the Blind, and we're here. Some people traveled 6, 8, 9, 10 hours by car to be here. It's not an inexpensive trip. So this is important to you. You're here. It's a gift. So if this is important to you, obviously it is because you're here. I just said that. Why aren't we sharing the gift with others? Each one bring one. We'll double in size. Can you try that? You can bring more if you like. Absolutely. But if each one of us brought one extra person, we'll double in size. We'll build our chapters. We'll build our divisions. We'll build our membership. And when you build membership, new ideas come in. New enthusiasm comes in. We need to have people come to our organization, to stay in our organization, get involved in our organization. We're started a new system now with our new membership program, which your president has asked you, and I guess it's completed, to get our database going. And all new members and existing members will receive a, you hear that? That's a medallion.
Oh, get one.
Well, you got to find out right now. You're good. If you're a paid member in the National Federation of the Blind, you paid your dues for 2019, you will get a medallion.
Oh,
And carry that medallion with you.
I will.
It is an opportunity for you to share the gift of the NFB with others. We will have ceremonies now at our chapter meetings honoring the new member. The new member will be voted in. Now, the ceremony is not lighting candles and wearing hoods and masks, stuff like that. But in the past, and I'm guilty of this, you find somebody new, hey, give me $5 to be a member. That doesn't mean a whole lot. You want them to come to a meeting once or twice, see what you're doing, get them involved a little bit, and then offer them the opportunity of the gift of the Federation. If they feel like they're getting something, instead of just handing their $5 or $10 in, more meaningful. At the end of each chapter meeting, we'll have a ceremony, and each chapter will decide what they want, and we're going to do this in New Jersey. We will read and recite the pledge. We will read and recite, of course, the 1-minute speech. We'll give them a medallion. We'll vote the person in. We'll give them their medallion and give them a job to do. That's how they stay and get involved. So we want it to be more. I belong to a lot of other civic organizations. Maybe some of you do too. Every organization I belong to had some kind of ceremony, had some kind of way you were sworn in. So we want to do the same. We want to make it more meaningful. So we'll come up with ideas for that too. But that's what we've got to do in New Jersey. Now, last year's convention, I forgot where it was.
Smyrna, Tennessee.
No, last year, I'm sorry.
Orlando.
Last year's national convention was. Oh, very good. If anybody forgot that, something's wrong. Now, we're not going to be in Orlando for a number of years, I would think. This year, it's in Las Vegas.
Yes.
How many people are trying to get to Las Vegas this year? How many people have registered already?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great, super. Now, would you like to, the dates are July 7th through 12th. And I don't know if I should tell you where the 2020 convention is going to be.
Nashville.
Should I?
Nashville. Sure.
The 2020 convention of the National Federation of the Blind will be somewhere in the United States. Stay tuned and you'll find out. If this was New Jersey, I would have got tomatoes thrown at me. It would have booed me. And I love booze. I'm from New Jersey. Booze means cheers. So there we go. So no, it won't be Hawaii. I guarantee you.
But it's in the United States.
Somewhere in the United States. I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
Nashville.
Hold on. Now, let me just go out of order here a little bit because I want to talk about the Marrakesh Treaty, which we talked a little bit this morning. Then I'll talk about some programs and projects that we have at the center, and then finish it up with some legislation. So, Marrakesh Treaty, passed in 2013. Scott Labar and Dr. Fred Schroeder went to Marrakesh, Morocco, to present this treaty to many international leaders. We presented it. At the last minute, it didn't look like it was going to pass. What they did, they put 100 books on the table, signifying 100% of books that are available to people who have sight. And then they put a chain around 5 books, which signifies how many of that 100 books that are available to sighted people that blind people can get. It made a big impression. Countries were signing up left and right. United States, not as quickly as we thought they would. In 2013, when we came back to the States, 37 negatives were against this treaty. Publishers didn't want it. Authors didn't want it. The library didn't want it. Copyright, you name it, nobody wanted it. But what do we do? We keep going at it, negotiating, because there's really no stopping us. There is none. Until we win the battle, the war will never end. So some of the issues that we do in Washington have been going on for a while. We're not stopping. We're not stopping. We will not back down. Nothing about us without us. Now, how can we do this? All these programs we have, without you, without me, without a great, strong national office. We need money to do this too. One great thing about the NFB that I really love and enjoy is we owe no money to no one.
Oh, good.
We have no credit card bill. We don't take loans out. If we don't have the money, we don't do it. We raise the money and then we do it. So let me ask this question. How many people in this room can save 17 cents a day?
I can.
You can?
Yes.
Anybody can't save 17 cents a day? Oh, everybody can?
Yes.
See, they're real quiet. They know I'm going to get them now. You see. But if you can save 17, how many people can save 25 cents a day?
Easy.
Easy, huh?
Very easy.
Let's go to 50 cents a day.
Very easy.
Everybody got real quiet. This is. But if you can save 17 cents a day, let's figure that out, okay?
Okay.
Times 30 days in a month, that comes to $5.10.
Okay.
So you can join the PAC plan for $5. Correct?
Correct.
Correct? How many people here are on the PAC plan? Yay! How many people who don't know what the PAC plan is? Some people? Pre-authorized contribution. It's a very simple way to help our national office do the things that we do, like fund freeway canes, scholarship, STEM 2 program, so on and so forth. So what it is, we get in touch with you have a PAC committee person?
We will.
We will, good. So if you're, be careful, she's going to point somebody out there, James Brown, you never know, oh, whatever.
James Brown's not here.
But it's pre-authorized contribution, which gives you an opportunity. Once a month, you pick the day, and they'll take X amount of dollars right from your account right into the national account or whatever, and that's one way of giving back to the organization. How many people here get Kernel books?
What?
Kernel books for the organization, with freeway canes,
Yes.
Rail Monitor, Future Reflection.
Yeah.
That all comes out of this money. So think about contributing 17 cents a day or $5 a month or more and get on the PAC plan. Okay? That's right. No, my voice is dry, so I can't sing. You're lucky I can't sing today. Aren't you lucky? We have another opportunity called the Dream Maker Circle, and this is what you really need to think about. And we're glad you're here. We want you to be here for many, many years. But one thing we all have in common is someday we're not going to be here. We're going to be looking down up in heaven, looking down at us here. So think about this, always take care of your loved ones first and your organizations that you love. If you can do that, fine. And if you can have the NFB as one of your organizations, state and or national, to think of the Dream Maker Circle, which you would leave X amount of dollars in your will, or your, you could do it that way, you could take out an insurance policy, whatever. In other words, it's a way to safeguard our legacy for the future. So that's on the website, and something to think about. We don't like to think about dying, but we're all gonna die someday. I can predict that. I don't know when, but we all are. That's right. Let me see. One of the most important, you'll hear this tonight during my banquet speech. The hardest thing to do is speak after a meal. I'm doing that now. I'll do that tonight. So, is everybody awake?
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Good. So, let me get here.
I think so.
The presidential release to me is one of the most important items that we receive from the national office. To me, it cements who we are. You're all sitting on a chair right now, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Nice strong chair, 4 strong legs.
Correct, sir.
So one leg represents the national office, the National Federation of the Blind. The other leg represents your state affiliate. The third leg represents your chapter division. But to keep that chair, to keep our organization strong and sturdy, the fourth leg of that chair is you, its members. So we are a 4-pronged organization. One can't do without the other. You can sit on a wobbly chair. How many sat on wobbly chairs before? Sure you have. When 2 legs are wobbly, not good. You're gonna fall down and get hurt. So we want a strong organization, and you guys can help us do that. Absolutely.
There we go.
We heard about Newsline before. How many people here have Newsline?
Yes.
All right.
I used to in Illinois on the phone.
How many people use Newsline? You may have it. How many people use it? Very good, very good. So Newsline was founded in 94, 95. New Jersey was the 6th state to get it in 1996. We're fortunate in New Jersey where we tried to raise money a few times and somehow we worked it into the budget of the Commission for the Blind. So it's a line item budget and every year it gets passed. So I want to thank the Commission for the Blind New Jersey for doing that. And they've been doing that since 1996, 7, 8. So the last 21 years, they've been funding Newsline for us, which is great. And a lot of staff use Newsline now, so good. I think it's here to stay. I heard you guys passed the Parents' Bill of Rights, or it's called Protecting Parents' Civil Rights. You guys passed the bill? All right, good, congratulations. Well, see, this is one of the greatest organizations. We share information. We don't hide information. We passed it, you didn't, haha. No, we have a list back in New Jersey of the 10, 11 states that have a bill that has been passed. And we have links to their bills. And we passed a resolution at our state convention in November for New Jersey to get a bill. We had an Assemblywoman, Yvonne Lopez, come to our convention. I used to work for her before she became an Assemblywoman. And we invited her to our convention. We read the resolution in front of her and in front of convention assembled in Braille. We gave her a Braille copy, a print copy. I gave her a heads up ahead of time what we were doing, so she knew what we were doing. And she said in front of everyone that she's going to work on this bill with us. We had a meeting with her in December, myself and 2 others. One is a blind foster mom who had to fight tooth and nails to get her little baby. Got turned down. She didn't know NFB. Got turned down. Someone said, call Joe Ruffalo. So she did. talked to her on the phone, and my computer's on here, a bing on my computer, email came in. So I'm talking to her, and I looked up, it was an email from Mark Riccoboni. A video of him at the park with his kids, and him it's talking about when he hung his Christmas ornaments, whatever, on his roof. I said, we're gonna send you this. We're gonna send you the booklet, Parenting Without Sight, which is earmarked really for social workers and professionals who say, you can't do it. So she said, how many should I get? I get 10. 10, yep, get 10. Always keep 2 or 3 with you. And when these social workers come to your house next week, you're gonna give 1 to each person. Again, she was turned down up until this point. They came over, she greeted them, said hi to them, gave them the booklet, they leafed through it. They said, we'll be back with you. 2 days later, they called her and says, tomorrow you're getting your child. But the fear is still there in New Jersey. We had a young couple. Their baby now is about 10 months old. When this baby was born to a blind mom and a blind dad, the mother asked a question to the nurse. The nurse purposely, according to this young woman, stood outside her door with another nurse and spoke. This is a hospital now, we're supposed to speak real softly, and said this: I don't know why blind people think they can take care of kids. Someone needs to call family services. They can't take care of a kid. She heard that and left that quickly. She signed herself out as quickly as she could. 3 days later, knock on the door, family services. Came in, inspected the house. House was spotless. Taking care of the little kid. Thank goodness the person who came over knew a little bit about NFB, has a sister in another state who is blind and takes care of her kid. And she said, you guys are doing great. They went to the pediatrician, the doctor who delivered the baby. About once a month, they took the baby in, check out the baby. Baby's fine, growing good, everything's fine. All of a sudden, the doctor started asking some really personal questions. Really, really tough questions. And the gentleman, he can only take so much. He started getting a little hot with the guy. And he called me afterwards. He said, how would have you handled it? Well, first of all, I wasn't there. I'm not being attacked. I'm not sure how I would have handled it, but next time somebody asks you a question, in fact, the doctor said, I'd like to ask you a question. You could say yes, and when your question is done, I'd like to ask you a question. So he'll ask you a question, you answer it. Your question to him would be, how much money you make a year? And he would answer that, so then the conversation's over. But again, not to be a wise guy over this, but we can take care of kids, can we?
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So thank you to all the states who have passed it. We got the collection of, like I said, the collection of all the bills. And we met with the assemblywoman in late December. That's Christmas and New Year's and things like that. So I went over to Trenton, and the Trenton lawyers have to look at this stuff and write the bill up and then send it back. So I said, just check all these bills out. Check Colorado. Colorado's bill was written by a lawyer. So that might be helpful. So I called last week. We had a board meeting last week. So I called last week to see what the progress was. Joe, it's in Trenton. The lawyers are drafting a bill as we speak. Yvonne should have it shortly. Again, shortly in government. I don't know what that actually means, but shortly. And when she gets the bill, she will call you on the phone, read it to you, make any changes you like in it, and we'll send it back for redrafting. And she already has State Senator Joe Vitale, a very important man in New Jersey, already is willing to read it before the Senate. So we hope this goes through pretty easily. Again, working with government. Some of our bills, as you know, James, and everybody who goes to Washington, they look so easy to pass. Why does it take years to pass? But we're sticking to it. We're going to get it done. We already have a database of people in our state who are blind parents, blind grandparents, daycare people who are blind, people who babysit, people who want kids. Great database, and we're ready to go to Trenton when we need to. So be prepared, and hopefully at National Convention I can stand up in front of everybody, convention assembled, during roll call and say, we passed it. Let's hope so. So thank you, Tennessee. Now, we know we're working on a lot of different programs and projects at the center, National Center, and we are asking states to help us out with the Lyft and Uber program. Are you guys doing that with your guide dogs?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Are you doing your reports every time?
Yes.
Good or bad? Please do. Exactly. You can also write a report if you're not a service animal user, and if you ride with someone who's a service animal user, you can still do a report. How many people here know about the Greyhound program that we're doing? Are you guys doing it here yet? No, okay. They're doing it in different portions around the country. Well, in New Jersey, we're asked to do this. Greyhound was charging extra money if you book Greyhound over the telephone. The website's not too accessible. So we are doing something now with them. We're testing it out. And I assigned someone in New Jersey to do it. She made 3 different calls on 3 different days to 3 different people and was treated like a queen. So maybe they're got the word out and they're correcting it. So I don't know if we're going to do that national or not, but be prepared. You might be getting a call to do that. How about, is it Red Robin or Red Box? Oh, Red Box, where you get all your DVDs. We have a lawsuit against that. We also have one against Applebee's. Where you go to Applebee's, you go in and there's an iPad on the table and you can't use it. The kiosk, I'm sorry. So we have something with them going on. Again, nothing about us without us. It always amazes us that we get called, oh, guess what we just did? We just made 18 million of these things and put them out there for you guys. Oh yeah, and then we go, doesn't work. And if they would have got to us in the beginning, we could have helped them to fit it the way it's supposed to be fitted so we can use it. Look at Cartronics, all those ATM machines, had to recall them, do them over again. So nothing about us without us. We have a case going on in New Jersey, and it's supposed to be a national report, but it really affects us here too. We have a young lady, senior citizen, not a member of our organization, but now she is, was referred to the national office by her mobility instructor. The reason? She was riding her town bus. She had low vision and riding her town bus. January 1st, she lost all her eyesight. She called the town bus and said, I want to take the town bus to so-and-so. Just want you to be aware I lost my eyesight. I have no vision at all, no eyesight at all. You can't ride the bus any longer unless you have your 4-year-old grandkid with you who can help you on and off the bus and count your change. This is 2019 here. So, not knowing what to do, as I said, we got a call from Valerie and said, see what you guys could do. I gave it over to Linda Melendez, who is our transportation coordinator. And Linda is from Brooklyn, New York, and Bronx. So, you know, she's a pit bull, I'm telling you. She is she don't stop. So she made a couple phone calls, and the woman said, no, we're not going to do that. And she said, oh, yes, you will. You will. Excuse me. Make a long story short, we're back and forth. And the last word we heard was their lawyer was going to get in touch with us. Well, we never heard from their lawyer. They heard from our lawyer. And she's riding the bus. Best part about it, she went to the support group and mentioned that she got her bus ride back. there were 15 other people there from the same area who were denied the bus. Those 15 people were leaving that meeting. They canceled the meeting. They were taking a ride down. They had transportation outside. They were taking a ride right down to town hall and going in to go see the mayor. So this week, I bet all of them got their rides back. I'll report on that in an article probably, so that should be pretty good. We had another gentleman in a senior center, and there are 900 of these around the country. I don't know if you have them here or not.
Yes.
You go into a senior center, and you have to punch your ID number into the kiosk. Kiosk, of course, is not accessible. Our blind gentleman, Ward Biondi, again, here's the problem, whereas, here's the solution. He says, all you need to do is put a dot here and a dot there so we can use the machine. Their response was, oh, we don't know if we can do that or not. He said, well, I have dots in my briefcase. I can put them on and show you. No, you can't deface it. So again, he called up on one of our senior calls. That's why you have a senior division. We took it upon a project and we made a couple phone calls. Valerie had someone from the national office was going to make a phone call, but never did. Ward went to his meeting a couple of days later, saw the manager and said, did you get any results for my recommendations? She says, no, but I think we got a letter from somebody and we're going to check into it. Next month it'll be all done. So we're waiting to see if it's all done by next month. And these are 900 of these around the country. The software is fine. It's the hardware. Put a dot on it. That's all the guy needs. Then why should he give his PIN number to somebody behind him in line? The best line to tell people, I always say this too, you're a sighted person, Mrs. Jones. Would you give your PIN number to the guy behind? No, I would never do that. But it's okay for us to do that. No, I see your point. Thank you. New Jersey, if they hit him over the head with a brick sometimes. Sometimes, not all the time. Now, we have national scholarships. The deadline is March 31st. So if you guys in this room are getting state scholarships, if you haven't applied for a national, you still have time. STEM 8 program is, that deadline is approaching. We talked about that yesterday. 2 of the 3 were really interested in the STEM subjects. So apply. My favorite line is this. Mr. Ruffalo, what are my chances of getting a national scholarship? I tell him, well, I can make 2 predictions. If you apply, you might win. If you don't apply, I guarantee you won't win. So apply. Simple as that. So please apply. You still have time for that. First-timer scholarship. Who wants to go to Las Vegas that never went to a national scholarship before?
I do.
All right. In the Braille Monitor, that's why you should get your Braille Monitor and read it. There is an article in there from Mr. Alan Harris, it's probably online too, giving you the application procedure on how to apply for a first-timer scholarship. So get the application, read the article, and follow the directions, and get it done by April 15th. That's the deadline for that one. To let everybody know by May 15th or so. So check it out. That's why we have the Braille Monitor. That's why we have our website. And share it with your chapter members and those kind of things. The Jacob Latin Awards are coming up. And that is given to a organization, agency, or individual with new type of ideas, new initiatives of promoting blindness or the capabilities of people who are blind. So that's the Braille Monitor. Also on our website, NFB.org, application is there. Past winners are there so you can see who won before. And if you win it, I think the least amount they give is like $5,000 and it goes up from there. So you may have a project here in the state that you want to apply for, or know someone who has done something or is doing something. check it out and see if you guys can apply. I know we heard about the Bell program. You guys have 2 Bell programs, and it costs money to run a Bell program, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It costs money. And lots of different ways to raise money and lots of different ways to keep it going. And we gave some ideas yesterday, how we do it in New Jersey and how other states do it too. But the most impressive thing, I think, is to get a kid from his town or surrounding town to go to civic groups such as the Lions Club and Elks, Kiwanis, whatever. And most organizations have money and they want to give to their local town people. You put a kid in front of a microphone talking about Bell and how much fun it is and what they learn, checks come in. So that's one way of doing it. There's lots of other ways too. So we're asking our parents in New Jersey where they work, and one person works for Prudential, and we're looking into a grant through the Prudential Foundation. We have a woman in New Jersey that writes grants for us. She's our new secretary, and she got last year a $5,000 grant, $2,500 for a convention and $2,500 for Bell. And she wrote a second grant about a week later, and it was a long shot. We didn't think we were going to get it, but we got it. $5,000 in this year's Bell. So I said, Ellen, you're from Delaware. I'm making a motion. You never go back to Delaware. Don't even cross that Mason-Dixon line. You're staying in New Jersey. We're working on some more grants too. So, but again, one person can't do it alone. One person heads it, and we will help out. Braille Reading Pals and the Explorer program, Braille Reading Pals, there you go, has been around for a long time. We're doing it now in our own state. Our Bell kids need to have Braille all year round, not just the 2 weeks in the summer. We might not see them all year round. So our volunteers in our Bell program are going to be their pen pals now. Once a month, they'll receive a letter from one of our volunteers. And also, we're going to send it in print so mom or dad knows what we're sending and encourage them to write back. So we want to keep in touch with these kids all year round, not just 2 weeks in the summer. See you next year. No good. So that's what we're going to try to do. The Explorer One program is for parents with their kids. You'll get a cane, instructions how to use it. So teach your kid how to use a cane even before the professionals say they're too young to use a cane. We had Joe Cutter, New Jersey. He was our mobility specialist from ages 0 to 3. And he used to give canes out to brand new babies. The baby's in the crib. The baby picks the rattle up. The baby hits the drum. The baby picks up the cane, puts it, growing up with it. And it's not a big deal when he's 2 or 3 years old, starting to walk with his cane. But if you wait and wait and wait, I know some agencies over the years and some schools or whatever, totally blind kids don't get canes until they're 16. What does that do? What does that do? Anyway. Now at the National Center, we have a program, if you want to call it that. IBTC, you know what that stands for? International Braille and Technology Center. We test everything there. We're like the Consumer Reports. So if you want to buy a product, a writer, a Braille writer, embosser, a computer, whatever, I always tell our members, check there first. We don't sell it. We don't get commission. But we test every piece of equipment on the market. I believe on the old site, maybe the new site has it now too, NFB.org, there was a reference guide there with all of the findings for, let's say, a note taker. The 5, 6, 7 different kinds there are. It's there. So you can decide which is the right one for you. Like when you go buy a car or a house, the realtor doesn't say, Mr. Jones, here's your blue house right here. You want to see the house. You want to walk through the house. You want to negotiate the price, whatever the case may be. So same thing when you're buying equipment. Sometimes the best people to ask are those who already have the equipment, not necessarily the salesman selling it. So, I used to be a salesman. We had the best shoe in the world because I'm selling it. So they're trying to sell it, and I don't blame them. They're trying to sell a product. But IBTC, we don't use it as much as we should. Anyone know about our Tenbrook Library? It is there for us. All of Tenbrook's works are there. Writings, speeches. Anna Kresmer is our archivist. We send in New Jersey, everything we send out to our membership, letters I write, gets copied and archived down at the National Center. So you won't lose minutes from 5 years ago or 10 years ago. We've lost them, but not anymore. She says, Joe, New Jersey's file is huge. Good. I want to send you everything. If it's not worthy of archiving, I'll let her decide. This organization, as you know, prides itself on history. So whatever you have, minutes, your agenda, your newsletter, letters to whoever, or letters to Ivan Lopez went down. So we sent everything down there. Constitutions are down there. Joe, you have the Constitution from 9 years ago. I don't have it. You have it? Oh, I gave it to Johnny. No, I gave it to Mary Lou when she became president. Oh, no, I thought I gave it to... Oh, the National Center, they got it. And they do. So archive. And what you do in the subject matter, you put archive, NFBTN, : in the subject. And she will archive it for you.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And it has to go through the president, not, so if the chapter wants to do that, it goes through the president sends it down. Okay. Let's see what here. Independence Market. You know what that is? Yeah, good. Okay. Independence Market's at the National Center, of course. Lots of good products. They also have, I didn't realize it until one year I kind of asked if they have it. Oh, we have it. They have gift cards. So at our convention, instead of giving out cash sometimes, $25, we get $25 gift cards from the Independence Market. And we do it that way. But it's there. It's there. Free literature is there. Your kernel books are there. Lots of great speeches there. Lots of things in Spanish. Someone's studying Spanish. One of the scholarship winners. I forget her name.
Today's Roxanne.
Roxanne. A lot of good Spanish stuff down at the National Center. Vehicle donation program. Anyone's trying to get rid of their vehicle, give it to us, the National Federation of the Blind. No one else. Please. Cards are kids. I can go into the whole story with cards are kids, but all over the country. But we have a vehicle donation program. We average about $360 a car when you donate them. So think of that. The Braille monitor, I said before, and future reflections, that's a must. We have social media. We have press releases, public service announcements, all that. You can find that on our website. Use those public service announcements. Get them out to your local radio stations, and hopefully they'll play them. Now, how much time do I have? None. Okay. So I was going to go over that's why I left it for the end. The issues that we have discussed in Washington. Your president went over them earlier. Please be on the lookout for upcoming emails that should be coming out shortly. We can only pass these things, only make it work with you. Don't depend on National with their staff of 3 or 4. We are stronger than you think you are. We do walk alone and we do march together.
Yes.
So, in the words of one of our singers, Mr. Tom Petty, that's right. The National Federation of the Blind
Theme song.
will. We didn't test it for What's that?
wanted to wake everybody
So
up.
like I said,
Thanks, John.
like I said, get it. You got it? So remember, when you're in Nashville, fighting a bill, we won't back down. We can't back down. We must not back down.
You could stand me up at the gates of hell, but
We will not back down.
no, I'll stand my ground.
NFB stands their ground until we get a pass.
Turn around, and I'll keep this world from dragging me down.
NFB will not back down. Thank you very much.
Door prize.
Door prize, yes, door prize.
Yes. All right, we have a $125 gift certificate to Custom Canes.
What's that?
Say it again.
Did you guys hear me?
Yes.
Good. And that goes to Seth Painting.
Alrighty, so she is in a hurry, so
Right here,
I
Seth.
am not going to.
Seth. Yeah, he's here.
Our next person coming up, you know her well, whether you went through TRC back in the Stone Age, which was me, or if you interacted with her through the Department of Vocational Rehab, Miss Paula Nicely.
Boy, I have millions of questions.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Paula Nicely. I am I'm one of the dinosaurs. I've been in blind services since 1988. I moved here from from North Carolina. So now I'm a Tennessean, more so than a Tar Heel.
Welcome.
Go Vols. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some information of where we are, where we've come from, and where we are going in regard to services for the blind. And the way that the field staff are structured has not been changed. We still have 4 field supervisors located across the state. We have counselors for the blind in every one of the major offices, which are Memphis, Jackson, Nashville, Chattanooga, Columbia, Knoxville, Johnson City, and we have a few in some outlying areas that are out in the boonies, so to speak. We had one up in Union City and Clarksville. That's not as much in the boonies as I think. I almost, because of the military there, but you're right. They're out there. So we cover the entire state. What Christina had asked me to gather are some numbers, some statistics going back a few years to determine the number of counselors we have, referrals, and total active in blind services, clients that we're serving. We went back, our system is, we're using duct tape at this point. We hope to get a new system, electronic case file system, very soon. But until we do, we were able to gather information from fiscal years 14 to present. And let me preface this. There have been a lot of changes in voc rehab, period, across the board since 2014. the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act was initiated in 14. Of course, we didn't get instructions on some of the guidelines from our federal partner for 2 years. So we sort of pinched hit. But in that time frame, what happened was they made the determination that the vocational goal of homemaker would not fit their criteria anymore because they were going with the model of competitive integrated employment. Of course, homemaker is not. So that affected a large number of our individuals, to tell you the truth. We also were utilizing facilities that were not considered in some areas to be integrated. Some were not giving minimum wage, and we are required to get minimum wage for what we do, at least minimum wage. What the whole Congress looked at in the competitive integrated employment is that if you're hired to do a job and the person next to you is not disabled and doing the same job and hired, you should be at the same rate of pay, the same benefits, the same opportunities, same hours, same opportunities for advancement. And they were noticing that's not happening in the field of disability as a whole. And blind services, of course, was probably hit as hard, if not harder, than a lot of the other disabilities, because for some reason, a lot of employers will think, oh, you're blind, you can't do this job. Well, we all know that you can do the job. They have to be educated. They have to get some touring of adaptive equipment. They've got to be educated in the culture. And that's one thing that we're focusing on a lot more now. But as far as these numbers, I don't want to deviate too much because I don't have much time. In 2014, I'll do the federal fiscal years, which start in October and end in September of the following year. So in fiscal year 14, we had 412 referrals that year. Last year, in 2018, we had 216. Yeah, it's a big nosedive. As far as districts, which means counselor positions, in 2014, we had 16. Last year, we had 8. When you get half the referrals, you get half the staff to cover it. Total active went from 1,065 to 606. We have some work to do, to put it nicely. I did not realize at the time in 2017, by 2017, I think it was by the summer of 2017, I stopped all homemaker cases. As vocational goal of being a homemaker. The federal government would not let us expend our funds any longer. They gave us until the summer of 2017. So I worked with the staff, they understood. The problem that I feel like has happened is we got in such the mindset of homemaker, independent living, so you can stay at home. You guys don't need to stay at home.
No,
You probably didn't even want to stay at home.
I don't.
So what we did when that stopped is, I think I'm going to take a hit on this because I probably deserve it. I didn't see where the staff need to be educated. We've got clients that want and need to go to work. So let's focus on that. And we are just now getting to the point where we're getting some doors open with employers to get that done. Good news, very good news as far as the income. The federal government, they look at quality of your life with employment and your benefits, and not the quantity of how many get a job. So what we're doing is, in looking at that, we look at the wages, what you make an hour, what any one of us make an hour, how many hours you work. So we have to report that to the federal government on second and fourth quarter earnings. So we did that recently. And I think it surprised a lot of the administration. It didn't me, it honestly didn't. But the services for the blind, the average hourly wage was, I want to make sure I get this right, $11.55. Now, minimum wage in this state is $7.25. So I think we're ahead of the 8 ball on that one. As far as the state average, and this is for VR clients, and it is state average of all disabilities. The state average was $10.25. So we're doing better than other disabilities across the state. As far as number of hours worked, the average was 34 hours for services for the blind. The number of hours for all disabilities in the state voc rehab program was 30.5 hours. Now, as you all know, and I addressed this at the luncheon that I attended, what employers tend to do is they will hire 2 or 3 part-time individuals and not pay benefits, meaning insurance, versus hiring one person and paying the insurance. We're working on that with employers too. There are some programs, incentive programs, that we are tapping into. We are educating employers about that would benefit them financially on the front end to hire individuals in full-time position. And this is not just individuals with disabilities. It's not just blind services. This is nationwide with anybody getting a job. A lot of it is part-time now. But we're working toward changing that. I don't want to take up more time, too much time. I'm fine? Okay. When I talked about the numbers in blind services, the average caseload in blind services is low. It's 70 individuals per counselor. It used to be around 100.
FPL.
General rehab right now average caseload is about 112. We need to reach out to the communities to get more individuals apply for VR. Now, I'm not saying that VR is perfect. I'm finding that phone numbers that are listed are not working well, or not manned like they should be. I'm finding that some staff are not as educated in certain programs as they really should be for the general public, such as Families First, not understanding or knowing where blind services is in their building. These are things that I'm learning, and as I'm learning them, I am setting things in place to rectify it. If I don't know it, then I think everything's okay. So these things that I'm learning today are going to help me hopefully rectify the situations. Voc rehab and blind services, they've been through a baptism by fire. There's no question about that. We have vacancies. and we need to fill them. And there's a problem with filling them, so we're having to look at, we need to revamp who would be qualified to meet the standards for a counselor for the blind, counselor for voc rehab, period.
No, I don't have that on my board.
Let's see. Oh, Tennessee Business Enterprise.
I don't have that on my board.
This is the best kept secret in
Yeah,
the state. It is a wonderful program. It is a wonderful opportunity, not for everyone, but we're trying to get the word out. We're sort of doing a big blast of information in regard to, I know, Ricky, I don't know if he's here right now, but I mean, if he was in the store the other day and he saw a young man with a cane or something, and he was talking to them about TBE. This program, I'm going to give you a little bit of information in regard to it. The Tennessee Business Enterprise Program, it surpassed $30 million this past year. $30,266,000. That is a $6 million increase in the past 5.5 years. They have 112 managers, or at the end of February they did. Hopefully they still do at least that many.
Say Ox 1, Ox 2.
We have more managers than we have facilities. So a lot of the managers are having to double duty it. In regard to covering temping is what they call it, temping some of the facilities until we can get individuals through voc rehab that are interested in and meet the criteria for TBE and get their training and license so they can hang off their shingle as a self-employed individual and go make the money. You're gonna work for it. I will tell you that. My husband's in that program, and he is like a 12-day-a-week job. It's but it's well worth. He loves.
So would it be the
your own boss, and you do what you need to do to get the job done. So I can't say enough about the TBE program. There are TBE managers here. I'll be happy to talk to anyone. Also, we have an information sheet that we are sharing. And if anyone needs or wants that, we'll be more than happy to share that with them also. Answer questions. We're encouraging individuals to maybe even go to some of the facilities and talk to the managers, or to see what kind of a job that would entail, what kind of skills you would need. Are you interested in that? If you are, great, give us a call. We are ready for you. Okay, so is this where I'm supposed to? Yes, I can take questions.
Run to the door. Yeah, James Brown.
Hey, James.
I don't know if I need a microphone or not. Probably do.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Okay.
Go ahead, she can hear you.
Yeah.
We can hear you. Project, James, project, like you're singing
Well,
at
I just
the
know we have
Apollo.
people with hearing loss.
Yeah.
So
Go.
it's not a.
Keep talking.
There you go.
Okay, so Paula, you talked about, learning different things today. And in the past, we've had conversation where we've talked about people who have wanted to go to one of the National Federation of Blind Training Centers around the country for structured discovery. And, we've had problems with counselors not knowing that this is a possibility. They would go talk to their supervisors. Again, they would say, no, it's not a possibility. Then I would call you, and then they would understand that it is a possibility and be able to go. Well, a young man who's here, hopefully in the audience today, he's at the convention, asked to go to one of our training centers a few weeks ago. His counselor told him no. He went to his supervisor, and she said, it's not possible, we don't do it. And then went to the supervisor, and she said the same thing. So one of the problems with this is Elena Versa is the supervisor, who was also the one who said no a year ago, 2 years ago. And so we're having a situation where the counselors and the supervisors saying it's not possible when they know it is. So what can we learn? How can we learn from this?
Well, as far as the educating of the staff in that realm, they have probably had very little. So let me ask you, who can you recommend that we can set up to come in to do some in-service training in regard to
Right here.
the NFB centers?
He's
Yeah, I can recommend Christina Cliff to do that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I can recommend Christina to do that.
Christina?
I can do
You're
it.
talking about someone to come in and give your people sort of training on what we do?
Yeah, what in-service, doing in-service on the centers, what benefit the services would be to an individual as they move toward an employment objective. You guys would be a lot better than me just saying, make it happen. They're not learning from that. And I don't have the skill set that is needed to bring that message across. So yes, Christina, are you
You mean
willing
you
to?
can't get your employees
I
to
can
do what you
definitely
ask
do it. I
them
know
to do?
that Dick Davis.
Well, I can get them to, I can tell them, that this is a viable training, and, if it meets their criteria to go to work, then let's do it, kind of thing. I mean, that's not gonna be something that's denied.
Oh, Dick Davis, one of our representatives from Minnesota, Blind Incorporated, he says he can help with that as well.
Okay, good,
Yes.
okay.
Tara.
Microphone, Tara.
It's coming.
Tara Tate from Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
I got accepted into grad school at the University of Memphis.
Congratulations.
I'm so grateful.
That is
And-
not an easy feat. Y'all be proud of yourself, that's good.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And all of my computer recommendations were turned in a great amount of time. And I started class this August of 2018 without my computer technology. So I went through a whole semester without my technology equipment. So what do we have in place? Do you all have in place to ensure that I get my equipment before I start school in August of this year?
Mm-hmm.
I need it.
I would say you probably do. Were you given access to loaner equipment? At least loaner equipment?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Mm,
It was a struggle, but I made it by the
get
grace of God.
Okay, let me introduce you guys to Tiffany Kelly. Tiffany Kelly is going to be working with her staff in regard to the needs that we're hearing here today. Tiffany she supervises the services for the blind. She started this role less than a month ago. I want to make sure that Tiffany, are we going to get a break after this?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just asking about a break because I'd like her to be available so that you guys could come. You need to give your information so that we can get this resolved. And anything, you don't have to bring it up here. If you have something, we will be available for you to do that. So all I can say is I am so sorry, and we will make it right.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Microphone, Tara.
Can I ask, what is her background since she's going to be supervising to help people with blindness in that position?
She has a master's degree in vocational rehabilitation. She has worked under me for 5 years. She has held counselor. She has covered cases of individuals with visual impairment. She has supervised supervisor. She was a supervisor and assisted in blind services. She's been the field director for deaf services and blind services. She has been doing that for over a year in Tennessee. All of Tennessee.
Somebody got a question. They said, how many cases have you turned down?
Turned down for what? I mean, you're more than welcome to talk to her if you have a situation or anything, but I don't exactly know what.
Miss Paula, I have a question. I work
I think so.
in, I want to know, can I have a counsel to help me get the technology that I need to be accommodated on this job?
Yeah, that's job retention. That's you need it to retain your job, right?
Right. Because I don't do the technology, what they're doing is they're going to take on the
Uh-huh.
they're going to talk to services for the blind. My dad is going to talk to services for the blind to come out and observe and to see what accommodations they have.
The worksite assessment, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
That's no problem. We just need to make sure that Tiffany's aware so that she can, if the employer doesn't reach out, we can contact you and say, we haven't heard, because I don't want it to fall between the cracks.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. There's a gentleman that is standing up. Did you want the microphone?
Yeah, we.
Oh, it died. Can you just sort of yell at me?
Hang on a second.
Do you, I can talk loud. I used to teach schools. You can have them.
It was kind of a piggyback question off the question. How do you go about, this better?
No.
Raise your voice. That's not working.
Okay, how do you go about deciphering what is career-based?
There you go.
Is it better?
Yes. Okay.
How do you go about knowing what's career-based, or deciphering what's more so independent? I feel like it's going towards like a career-based thing. We do definitely want to be in a career, but other than a person that's coming blind or a person that has from birth or deciphering a person that's just starting, how do you go about giving that person that training and then going towards the career side? Is there a process of how you do that?
Okay, you talked about like newly blinded. Is that an example you're giving?
Kind of like an example, but is there a way of how you decipher what that person needs, or you just call forms or just career based and just trying to get them another job?
Well, when we first meet with the individual, the counselors to talk to them, find out where they're coming from, what they feel like they need and want to work. If they're coming in and saying, this is the kind of job I want, or I want this kind of training to do the job that I want, then we're trying to find out from them, okay, then what skills do you think you have? What skills do you think you need? Are you referring more toward independent living services?
Not so much independent living, but more so having this training outside this independent living, where I feel like it's, and I'm not maybe more educated on it, but I feel like this independent living is kind of scratching the surface, more so just on what training you need to actually be in that career field. Independent living just what I've information I saw or what I've read, I got when working with VR, it's just so small on the grand scheme of technology, reading realm, the whole 9 yards that independent living doesn't teach. There's other facilities that are training that you're looking to kind of give that direction of how we decipher it. I guess that makes sense.
I'm not understanding.
I'm not exactly understanding the question. I mean, I can throw some stuff out there and see if it hits the wall and sticks. Let's see. Talking to the individual, there are assessments that are done, assisted technology assessments. If you want, to be, of course, a computer programmer or something to that effect, of course, you're going to have to deal with computers. If you want to be a counselor, you're gonna have to deal with almost everything nowadays in a professional position is going to need to use a computer. You can go to the grocery store and you have to use a computer to, to check people out nowadays. It's not the old cash register like it used to be. So, I mean, we have assessments for that. We assist individuals by looking online with them. We encourage them to go to tn.gov. We have different databases that actually list jobs. It lists the skills that you need to do the job. It lists the training that's needed. It will list the income. We can even get data from businesses in regard to in your area. You don't want to relocate. What is available? And then look at the equipment there. If you're a Braille user or need to be able to use Braille for your job, whether it be on a computer or refreshable Braille, whatever it is, then that's looked at. But I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Maybe I can try to put it in
Maybe
a
we-
different way. What if a person doesn't know what technology they need or what kind of training they need? How do you decipher what they need? And then from that point on, okay, this is what kind of training we have to offer, or this is what kind of refer you to give you that training.
Like a form.
Okay, so
I think he's asking like how does he get?
How do you evaluate what technology a person needs?
Yeah. AT eval, that kind of stuff.
yeah, the AT eval. That I also heard in that what if they don't know what they want to do? How do we help them do that? And besides just talking to them, we also, of course, can do a career inventory, not the term, but it will actually ask you these questions that will narrow it down. Some it's appropriate for, some it's so far out. So you never know with that kind of a test. The thing that I strongly feel that I wish we did more of is job shadowing and workplace assessments in regard to, a lot of people, they will hear a commercial or something on television. Oh, I want to do that. That sounds interesting. Of course, we've had a lot that want to work with a vet. And I've arranged with my vet personally before to have someone come out and job shadow for the day. And this girl was adamant, yeah, this is what I want to do. I'm going to check into schools. I'm going to get them some tech training. And one day she called me crying her eyes out. And she said, don't make me go back there. And I thought, oh, Lord, my vet's great. What has happened? And she said, they kill dogs. They kill dogs. And I'm going, no. A dog had come in, hit, and they could not save it. And she was there, and she said, I am not going to be part of that. I said, okay. So, but up until then, for an entire year, that's what she wanted to do. But that kind of experience, I think, would be beneficial to allow. Shoot, I wish I had had that when I was, in high school. We're trying through the pre-EDS program to give them more work-based learning and job exploration in regard to that. The younger we can get the kids to start with that, the better the chances are by the time they graduate from high school, they're going to have a better idea of what the jobs really entail and what their true interests are. But until then, those are some things that I have in mind.
So, Paula, I have one final question.
No, I got a final question. You got the next to a final question.
But I get the last word.
So I know that we're running 30 minutes behind, so I'm going to make this quick. If we were to set up a meeting with the commissioner, to tell her about some of our concerns, would you be interested in attending that meeting with us?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I would appreciate the offer.
And real quickly, can you tell us in a real quick nutshell, can you tell us the changes that are happening at TRC and how that's going to impact clients?
It shouldn't affect them, but okay, this is new and it's new to me. I'm still reading it. It's not going to go into effect until the summer. But they're going to go more to a, what do they call it? Program-based curriculum-based training. I talked to the superintendent, Karen Carruthers, because she was talking about the training programs that they were going to do. They're going to get certifications in it and be accredited in certain things. And I said, well, what about the evaluations? What about the VIS unit? Because that's where I started. I was mobility and VIS for a while. And so I said, what if you want an evaluation? What if you need training that the VIS offers? And she said, that's not going to change. And I said, but you're saying that everything's going to be different. She said, no, what it is it will not be a class just of individuals with a visual impairment. It might be a class with individuals needing an evaluation or skill training that are across the board. It might be TBI with a visual impairment. It might be, an individual that has multiple disabilities, which includes blindness. So until it goes into effect, I'm going to be over there as soon as it starts to see. My goal is to identify referrals that we're getting to go over there, the evaluation, once the switch is flipped. They say it's going to be the same. I do not know. I trust Karen. Karen is very smart. She knows what she's doing. However, I'm very protective of blind services. Always have been, always will be. And I'm not saying that the VIS unit, just like any place, cannot be updated and modernized. We all can. But I want to ensure that the evaluations, like the TBE evaluation that they do, the orientation mobility services, the ADLs, Braille, the whole ball of wax, that it is still intact for the individuals that want and need to go there. And until that happens, as far as I know, it's going to be business as usual. If it's not, then, and it's something that I'm hearing from you guys, hey, this is what my experience, or this is what I would like you to talk to so-and-so who went there. That's when I can look into things and make changes.
Question. A question.
Oh.
Wait, one last one, then we were running behind, so.
All right.
Yeah.
That's what Dr. just said earlier about commingling the different services for different disabilities. That's the biggest issue that we have, is that we don't really want those things to be put there. We want to be very specific with training for VI counselors to basically deal with blind and visually impaired people on the basis of being blind and visually impaired, to be able to go from where they are now to work and become independent. We don't really want them to become commingle with everything else, because what happens when it happens, it gets diminished. And diminishment leads to lack of good training, good quality training, the training that we want. And in addition to that, it keeps the counselors from knowing what the culture is of the blind and visually impaired community, because now you're dealing with everybody else, and things are very specific when it comes to blind and visually impaired people, especially when it comes to employment, retaining employment, retaining skills, particular job set, and when they're age related. What are your plans as far as training counselors and dealing with that in the specifics of dealing with the blind and visually impaired? Because one of the things we just don't want is to just be commingled with everyone else.
I hear what you're saying. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Has anyone I know, Christina, I'll be real quick. I know you twitched. Okay. All right. Has anyone actually talked to the supervisor of the VIS unit at TRC, Karen, in regard to do anything? Okay,
We've talked to people too.
okay.
Davis.
Yeah, Karen Davis. Karen Davis. Okay. All right, Christina.
Well, I don't have any more
Yeah,
time.
no, you're fine.
No, wait, no, we don't have any more time.
You're fine, yeah. No, really, we really don't have more time. But thanks, and if you guys want to see Tiffany Kelly about your own personal issues or concerns, she will be in the back. So at the registration desk table. So Tara's going to give you visual directions.
Out the door and turn to the right and go down there probably 100 feet on the left. Out the door, turn to the right, go down there about 100 feet on the left where we did registration. And that's where she will be waiting, where she doesn't have long, she'll stay here. So if you want to talk to her about any particular situation, she's willing to talk with you.
That's all.
Oh, my, okay, Caitlin. Okay, all right. So next up, we have the ever popular, if you guys did the showcase of talent last night, and thank you for all of you who participated, not only lending your talents in the showcase, but also who lended your money into that fundraiser. But don't worry yet, we still have some lint to pick out of those pockets later on today. You know, Bell Academy, we pass the hat or the bucket or whatever we have handy, as long as it's nobody's shoes. We are gonna pass the hat, but Caitlin McIntyre is from Arizona, and she is the vice president for the Performing Arts Division. And one of the reasons we invited her here is because Tennessee is full of talent. Yeah. We have tapped that, literally. Through Tap That, yes. So we not only have James Brown, we have J.P. Williams, and we have Janet Jackson and Steve Norman. So we have a lot of talent that is in that national division, and we want to highlight them more because there are others of you out there, yes, we know who you are, who have hidden your lights and talents under a bush. And we want to help this division grow not only in the organization, but in the state as well. So here's Caitlin McIntyre.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, fellow Federationists. Good afternoon. It is wonderful to be here, and I am so delighted to be here all the way from Arizona. I know we talked about driving for 6 hours. I flew for about 8 hours, so I am so glad, though, that I made it. It's a beautiful state. I've only been to Nashville in the past, so I'm very excited to be here in Knoxville. Should I say I kind of slurred in there, Knoxville? But it's great to be here. And yes, there is an immense amount of talent in this state, which I am so eager to continue learning about. So this afternoon, I just want to give you, kind of talk about three things. I want to introduce myself, tell you a little bit about who I am, what my involvement in the performing arts is. I want to talk to you about why you could and should get involved with performing arts, even if it's just for fun. Okay. And I want to tell you what the National Federation of the Blind Performing Arts Division does, who we are, what we do, what our goals are. So, first of all, again, my name is Caitlin McIntyre, and I've lived many places. I was born in California, I lived in Toronto, Canada, I lived in Arizona, I did a semester abroad in Heidelberg, Deutschland, Germany, and Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, all over the place. So I haven't had the privilege of living in Tennessee yet, but I'm still in my 20s, so there's hope. But one thing that I really appreciate my parents did for me, and I'm gonna give a shout out to those parents of blind children because they play a really important role. So thank you, parents of blind children. Yes, you can clap. One thing my parents did for me that was a real boost as a child and throughout my life was they encouraged me to stretch my wings and try new things, right? That good old slogan. And that took many shapes and forms. Sometimes we were on the beach in Southern California and they said, hey, Caitlin, the beach is wide open in front of you. Go for it. Just go run. So I was encouraged to just, it was just flat sand. Maybe there are a few little bumps along the way, but hey, it's sand, and the ocean's to my right. I can hear the waves. It's beautiful, clean beaches, no dangers. So I would just run straight ahead. No jellyfish. You should come to Redondo Beach, California. It's beautiful. And so I would just run straight ahead, and it gave me the confidence that, hey, I can move my body. I can be comfortable in my skin. And I can run, I can walk, I can jump. I would run in and out of the waves, being chased by the water, trying not to let it touch me like a lot of little kids do. So that was where it all started, back with just simple things, encouraging kids, they encouraged me to be someone who was not afraid to try things, not afraid to be comfortable, to move out in space. It really gave me a beginning understanding of spatial awareness, of confidence in who I was. So that continued. I did some gymnastics, did horseback riding, various things. Eventually, I got involved in dance. Now, it started with some ballet and tap, as a lot of kids do, which was a lot of fun. And then when I was about 9 years old, I got started with some clogging. Has anyone ever heard of clogging? Yeah. I like you people. This is great. This is great. So clogging, yes, for those of you who don't know, it's kind of has roots in Irish dancing, actually a little Native American dancing, tap dancing. It's really, really fun. I will have to bring my clogging shoes. I want to teach a clogging seminar at National Convention one of these years, because it's a great thing. I love the sound. And that, again, encouraged me to be comfortable in who I was. It encouraged me to be comfortable on stage, to be spatially aware, to listen to the other dancers around me, to be confident, to smile, to be, confident in front of public audiences. And additionally, I started singing as a very young child. So some of you may have heard me if you were in our morning session singing the national anthem or last night. And that did not come easily overnight. I have been training classically since I was 7 years old, so for about 20 years. And it's a cultivated thing. However, there are many people for whom voice lessons are a great way, again, to develop confidence, to develop stage presence, or just being confident in your body, ability to stand firmly somewhere and speak to those around you, the ability to speak clearly and articulate your sentences with proper diction is a very good skill, right? So I started singing, I did some piano. Music was a big part of my life, music and dancing. Eventually, I started doing some ballroom dancing as well, which, side note, when I got into my master's degree at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, I joined the competitive ballroom dance team, and it's where I met my husband. And we became partners, and it was a lot of fun. So just to give a little plug for dancing, you never know who you're going to meet. But I grew up through high school, and I knew that music was something I always wanted to do. Now, there were others who told me, maybe I shouldn't be a performer because I'm blind, and that is going to be too difficult, right? Just like in any career, you have the naysayers who say, well, how on earth are you going to adapt that as a blind person? I was telling Jason earlier that when I was about 12 or 13, I was in a production of Godspell. And I auditioned, and they said, we love your voice. You have one of the best voices of the whole cast. But we're not going to cast you as a main character because I don't really think you can navigate around the stage. So, they gave me a microphone in the chorus, and they said, oh, you can learn the choreography, but everyone else is going to be up on these platforms, up high up these stairs. We'll just put you down here on the ground because, you don't need to go up there. It's too dangerous. I don't think you need to be up there. And I didn't know what to do as a 12-year-old at first. I thought, this isn't right. I can climb up some stairs, right? I'm climbing stairs all the time in my house or on a playground. But I didn't know that I could fight for that. And I didn't have enough confidence back then. I had some confidence, but you have to pick your battles sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. But now looking back, I can see what a terrible thing that was. I was doing the choreography just as well as everyone else. I was singing as well, if not better than everyone else, but they didn't want to put me on the same playing field as everyone else. So that has always been a struggle. However, I've had some great directors. Fairly recently, a couple years ago in my master's degree, I did a bachelor's and master's of vocal performance. In my master's degree at Carnegie Mellon, I had a wonderful director named Crystal Manick, who's directed for the Met Opera in New York and various things. And we did some scenes from Le Nozze di Figaro, The Marriage of Figaro, and I was the Countess. And it was such a refreshing experience because the first day she came into me, and I could tell she was a little worried. She came up and said, so I just want to talk to you about what accommodations you're going to need. And she was prepared to make changes to your choreography. But I basically told her, hey, as long as we work together, as I've maybe got some furniture on stage that I can use as landmarks, I have enough time to get comfortable with the spatial awareness on the stage, how far the distances are, where the steps are, then it's going to be great, and you probably won't have to alter much. She was so excited. She thought, this is wonderful, excellent. And as we started going through the choreography and through the blocking, she realized that everything she had hoped for in her choreography and blocking of the show, I could execute. And so she was so encouraged, and I was encouraged because it was someone who had high expectations for their cast member. And I appreciated that so much. It gave me hope that yes, there are directors out there who get it, and who, even if they don't know how it's going to work, they want to give it a try. So that gave me some hope. Now, just a little side note, fortunately, that's not always the case in our modern entertainment industry. In fact, this week, the National Federation of the Blind put out a press release saying that the CW is putting on a show, starting a show in April. I'm forgetting the name, something in the dark, Dancing in the Dark, maybe. And it is actually starring, the character is a blind character, which is exciting, right? We think, oh yay, maybe it'll be a good portrayal of a blind character. Well, they casted a sighted actor. So
in the dark.
they did not in the dark. Is that what it is? Yes. And they didn't seem to give blind actors a fair chance. There have not been television productions where a recurring role has been played by a blind actor. And so that is something we want to change in the industry. And actually, I'm going to just briefly talk about the National Federation of the Blind Performing Arts Division. I'll switch my order a little bit, because that's something we're passionate about. We want to empower blind performers to be able to live the lives we want. Yes. And whether that is singing karaoke with friends, whether that is dancing, going social dancing, whether it's being an actress or an actor on a national television show, we want to empower you to reach for those goals. And so some of the things we do for that are just education, as always, right? We are educating the public about the misconceptions of blindness and how that relates to blind actors and musicians and various things like that. We also want to create a space for performers to connect with one another, because as I was growing up, my parents, they read Future Reflections. They had great philosophy about blindness, but I wasn't ever able to attend any of the blind conventions, the National Federation of Blind conventions, until I was a scholarship winner in 2014, which was incredible. And I highly recommend that anyone who is a student apply for the National Scholarship, because as was stated earlier, if you don't apply, you will definitely not get it. But if you do, you just might. And it was an incredible experience for me. It introduced me to this amazing organization. But, you know, growing up, I didn't have a lot of other peers who I could say, hey, how did you do that? When you were doing an audition for a musical, did you ask for the sides ahead of time? You know, is that an okay accommodation to ask that you can get them in Braille, or you can get them in large print, or you can memorize them, or that sort of thing? And, you know, I had to kind of, a lot of people do when they don't have connections with other blind friends and mentors, they reinvent the wheel every time. But we have this incredible network of fellow blind people. And in my instance, it's fellow blind performers. Maybe it's fellow blind lawyers or social workers or educators or whatever it is. And that's an amazing part of the NFB. So we do have a listserv if anyone is interested in joining. It is the what is it called? Perform-Talk. So if you go to the nfbnet.org listservs, you can join the Perform-Talk listserv. And it's a great place to ask questions about performing arts. We'd love it if members share what they're doing lately. You can introduce yourself. We'll put out some info. We also have a Facebook page, National Federation of the Blind Performing Arts Division, and a Twitter at NFB_PAD. So we'd love it if you would join us on social media. And if you would like to become a member too, we are trying to do more membership calls throughout the year. So this year, for example, we had Marilee Talkington, who was the blind actress who was on NCIS last year. We had her join us for a call in October that was really fascinating. We're going to do one on, you know, what if you want to be a performance major, a music major, or otherwise in college? How does that look like? I'm hearing from some people who have been there. We're going to do that one soon. And so definitely encourage you to reach out to me. I will be here the rest of the weekend if you'd like to become a member of our division. And oh, yes, I will be singing this evening. I have been voluntold, so I will be singing. But I will. I love it. I love it. And yes, I will be here all day, though, until tomorrow afternoon. So come talk to me. And lastly, I want to talk about why, you know, maybe if you're not a performing artist, first of all, we definitely want to get those of you who do this a lot. You know, like we heard, we've got Janet Jackson out there, and she's awesome. She's rocking that gospel music. And Janet, we'd love to have you in our division, right? We've got James Brown singing "Live the Life You Want." You know, we gotta get that going. So, But even if you just want to do performing arts as a hobby,
Yes, please.
we would love to have you as well, because like I said, it's a great way. Some of the benefits are it builds confidence. It gets you good at public speaking in front of others. Maybe you are acting or doing improv or singing. It helps you become comfortable in your own skin, comfortable standing in front of other people, being able to share a message or whatever that is. Also dancing. So I stated briefly that I'm a ballroom dancer. We had a few people in our dance seminar last night. I hope that more of you will be encouraged to try that, because that is something that I think is fascinatingly good for everyone. So now maybe you don't want to be a competitive ballroom dancer. That's fine. Maybe you don't want to be a professional ballet dancer. No problem. However, dance is something that links performing arts with sports and recreation with just good old-fashioned fun, right? Yep. So one thing that I love is going to different ballroom or social dances, like a salsa night where you're doing salsa. And once you learn a few basic steps, you can get out there on the floor. You can, dance with other people, and they'll teach you new steps, and you will continuously learn. But it's a really fun way to meet other people. It's good exercise. It's good for your mind, and it gets you involved with something performing arts related. It's good. It's a good confidence builder. Gets you moving out and about, and even has a little music and rhythm in there, all that good stuff, which is very good for mind and body. So I definitely encourage you, if you have the opportunity, do not be afraid. I've definitely been the blind person who shows up, knows nobody. It's a little intimidating, but if you can bring a friend, go say, hey, there's a swing dance lesson on my university campus, or hey, my community group is hosting a bachata lesson or a waltz lesson or a country line dance or whatever it is. Bring a friend and give it a try, and don't be afraid that everyone is looking at you, because everyone is probably just as confused as you are. A lot of times, if it's a beginning class, nobody else has ever danced either. And so don't be worried about being, oh, I'm blind, I don't know if I'm doing it right. You know what? It's okay. No one is doing it perfectly. And I encourage, some of the things that I do is I go to the instructor and introduce myself ahead of time and say, hey, I'm blind, can you be as verbal as possible, please? And then I might just have to ask you some questions afterward to make sure I got this right. If you can show me to make sure I was doing it correctly, hey, may I feel your feet to make sure that my positioning is correct. So don't give up. Keep trying, even if the first class you don't like it. Maybe try a different type of dance. Maybe try a different type of improv. Maybe try an acting class or a music lesson or whatever it is. These skills are definitely transferable to other parts of life. And so even if it's not your career, we'd love to have you join us in the Performing Arts Division. I will be here. Come talk to me. And thank you so very much for having me be a part of your convention. It is truly a delight to be here in Tennessee. So let's go build the National
Alrighty, everybody. So it's time for a fit break. You've been sitting too long after lunch, so come on, get back up. Get back up, everybody. We have a wonderful song you can stretch and move to as soon as it gets keyed in.
Oh.
Is it right? Yes. So, Shannon, you handy?
I am.
Can we get a door prize while we're waiting on the music to cue?
We have a $25.
And if our speakers for the panel will come up, Stephanie and Lucy. Yep.
We have a $25 Red Lobster / Cheesecake Factory from Scenic City, and that is gonna go to someone when I draw the name.
It's pronounced Ruffalo.
Okay. Can you read that? 'Cause I do not.
It's pronounced. You got it?
Carol McGee.
Harold McGee.
Harold McGee.
Is he here? No, Harold McGee. Next.
Roger Freeman.
Who?
Roger Freeman.
He's a vendor, not here. He's not here. Keep on going.
We're doing the blind struggle over here for real.
Roger Freeman?
We just said that. Sorry.
While you're looking for a door prize, Kayla, did you sing with anybody famous?
Oh, well, I sung at Carnegie Hall, and I've met a lot of friends people, but I got it.
Well, I hate to brag, but I sang with, remember Barry White?
Oh, yeah.
I sang with Barry White. I sang with Diana Ross. They were on TV. I was in my living room, like saying.
So loud. All right, guys, is Annette Williams here?
Annette Williams? No, Annette Williams.
Ronald Tucker?
Ronald Tucker, there you go. His wife is happy. All right, Josh, you ready?
You may use that, kid.
Hold on.
Good job.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
Okay. No.
Okay, Josh, I got you. Turn my mic on. All right, everybody, time to stretch. Hold on. Just stretch. Come on, up and down. Y'all can do it. Oh, that's easy. All right, hands over your head. Like you're waving at the sky. All right, now go backwards. Just don't strain the person behind you. Just stretch back. Head out to the side. Don't hit your neighbor. And drop the pin forward. Those left you still can do it. I want you to bend down and get to your toes and stay there. Or as far to your toes as you can get. All righty, I think we're good. Thank you, thank you. Have a seat if we can get back up. All right, so that's a good stretch break. We are moving into the employment part of the day. And to kick this off, does structure matter? Our moderator for this panel is our own Terry Smith.
Oh my God, I love those. Okay, we're going to be talking about different service delivery models and structure and how much, emphasis on specialized services. We've got a great panel for you. My role is to tell you a little bit about the history of services for the blind in Tennessee, and then we've got a panel. On the panel is Dick Davis from Blindness Inc. in Minnesota. We have Lucy Malahan, who I still call Lucy Alexander, and having a hard time with that, who from New Mexico, who will be talking about the New Mexico experience with a separate agency. And we will hear from Stephanie Jones from the Clovernook Center in Memphis, who will come at it from the center-based aspect of specialized services. So before I tell you the history, I'm going to condense a 20-minute story into 1 minute. And because Dick Davis goes around the country, and every time he sees me, he says, "Did I ever tell?" He tells people, "Did I ever tell you about how Terry and I saved rehab?" And there's actually a little bit of truth into that. I'm not going to take credit, but in 1994, 1995, it was actually 1995, but after the Republicans took over the House, Newt Gingrich was in control, and they started passing all these bills. And they introduced a bill that would turn rehab into a block grant program. They would just give the money to the states, and the states could do what they want. They could privatize it. They could do what they wanted. And so basically the rehab model would have gone away. And the Goodwill Industries and those folks were lining up in support of this because they thought the states would just give them the money to do the rehab programs. What happened was, I was the president of NCSAB. He was of the National Council of State Agencies for the Blind. He was on the board. He said, "I think we need a stronger relationship with the National Federation of the Blind." This was before that bill was even introduced. We arranged a meeting in Baltimore. I went out to Dr. Mauer's house. Dr. Jerningham was there. We grilled out steaks. We drank wine. We talked. We drank wine. We talked some more. We drank wine. And I tell people, it was professional highlight of my life. It really was, sitting there and having the conversation with those gentlemen. Dr. Jernigan, when we got up to leave, he said, Terry, he said, a lot of people before you have come and they've said the right things, but there was no follow-up. He said, you've said all the right things, now let's see some follow-up. And at that time, the agencies for the blind and NFB were at war with each other. And we built a bridge that night. And since then, NFB still doesn't like a lot of things happening with rehab, but the war, well, at least we had a seat, we had a detente, and then this bill comes along just shortly after that, and it was the National Federation of the Blind that went to the mat for rehab. And we were working, I wasn't part of NFB at that time, I was part of the NCSAB, but it was the National Federation of the Blind that led the fight, that was on the Hill, and this was going on C-SPAN, and we were watching the debates on C-SPAN and hearing all these negative things members of Congress were saying about rehab. And keep in mind, Newt Gingrich at this point had just taken over as speaker. He had never lost a bill and never lost a vote on the floor because he was the man, he was in charge, and he was just running his agenda through. And the National Federation of the Blind stopped him in his tracks. And the vote failed, and we saved rehab. And Dick likes to say it was me and him, but it really wasn't me and him. But and the ironic part about that is that we still, although the rehab system today owes its very existence to the National Federation of the Blind, we still have to have conversations like we just had about the inadequacies of the program, and that's disheartening. So let me talk a little bit about 50 years of history in services for the blind. I've been around about that whole time. 1969, we'll start with 1969, and remember 1975, 1983, 1984, 1994. The other one is a little foggy, about 2007, and then 2019. Those are the dates I'm going to hit real quickly. The Services for Blind was established in 1943 by the General Assembly. It requires that there be a division of Services for the Blind. It requires that there be a director of Services for the Blind. That is in statute. It was placed in the Department of Welfare. So the Department of Welfare was the umbrella agency that had control of Services for the Blind in Tennessee. So in 1975, the Department of Welfare changed its name to the Department of Human Services. Little else changed other than it just sounded better than welfare. So they changed it to the Department of Human Services in 1975. On Valentine's Day, 1983, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, Governor Lamar Alexander issued an executive order combining vocational rehabilitation, which was in the Department of Education, with Services for the Blind, which was in the Department of Human Services. And although a lot of people anticipated this was going to happen, everybody thought we would go to education. Instead, they brought VR into human services. And they formed one organization, the Division of Rehabilitation Services. And I was named the Director of Services for the Blind. And I had a lot of power because I had no staff. And other than, I had about 5 or 6 staff in central office who were basically served as consultants to the field staff. We had no authority whatsoever. So this is 1983. 1984, I get called into the office. The assistant commissioner says, Terry, he says, our folks they don't know anything about this vending facility program. That is so foreign to what they do. Why don't you take over supervision of the vending facility program? So they gave me all the BE staff, and so I took over the supervision. So finally I had field staff. 1985, they called me into the office. Terry, our folks don't have a clue about this independent living and this rehab teaching program. I mean, they don't even have to get jobs. They just serve them. And said, we just can't get our heads around that. And they said, would you mind taking over supervision of the rehab teacher program and the independent living program? I said, sure. So then they gave me that staff. You fast forward to 1994, and we were working behind the scenes, and some of you may know, I worked the system pretty well when I was a director. I was, had a close relationship with Lev Williams, who I owed my job to. And do we have any, that's true, I did. Do we have any of the students that were from Memphis that were at MTSU when I was there? Yes. So Lev and I established a relationship when I worked at Middle Tennessee State University. And you would literally make the trip to Memphis just to meet His Highness. And, and you would have these conversations with him. And I established mutual respect, a great relationship with him before I became director. And when they were interviewing for the director's job, they called Lev and they told him, we've got these 3 finalists, give us your input. And he instantly said, Terry. And so had he said one of the other 2 people, I'm sure history would be totally different. I owe my job in large respect to Lev Williams and the National Federation of the Blind. And I stayed in that position for 28 years in about 5 months. And so we weren't happy because we still did not have the rehab counselors working under us. If you look at the law says that only the Director of Services for the Blind can have the responsibility for providing rehab services, and we were not doing that. So somehow, Lev Williams got word that we needed to get a resolution through the legislature that I wrote, and nobody ever knew it at the time, that I wrote a resolution, I gave it to Lev, Lev took it to the legislature passed it, and the legislature said, Human Services, this is what the law says, it's our expectation that you comply with the law. And next thing you know, I've got all the counselors. And so we went from, it took us 11 years to go from 19 to the executive order when I had 0 staff to 1994 when I had 90 staff. We were still part of a combined agency. We weren't a separate agency, but we did have all the services reporting straight up to me. And then I reported to the assistant commissioner. You then fast forward to 2000, I cannot remember the exact date, okay, but it was somewhere, it would have been 2007 or 8, something like that, when they folded the deaf program in under me as well. I fought that for 2 years, and the assistant commissioner called me in. He said, Terry, the deaf are getting shortchanged in this state, and he said, I want you to fix that. I want you to take it over. He said, give me a plan. 6 months later, he called me in his office. He said, where's my plan? I said, oh, I forgot that. And so he said, give me a plan. So about 9 months later, he called me in the office. He said, where's my plan? I said, oops, I forgot that. And so finally, after 2 years, he calls me in his office. He says, Terry, effective Monday, you got the program for the deaf. I said, oh, you didn't explain it to me that way. So I did have to take over the program for the deaf. We met with the consumer groups. Assured them that they would be totally separate entities, that we'd have a program for the deaf, we'd have a program for the blind, there would be no crossover except that I would supervise both programs, and the consumer groups were okay with that. I retired on October 31st, Halloween of 2011, and then since then, now we fast forward to 2019. The Services of the Blind unit, as you know it, no longer exists. It's now the Division for Sensory Services. I don't know, is Tiffany in here? But anyway, I'm not exactly sure, but what is it, Christine?
It's a direct sensory unit is what they're
just
called.
A sensory unit.
Just a sensory unit.
So you have all the blind and the deaf, and they're all mixed into one unit now, which is not consistent with the law. We will have a resolution coming out of the resolution committee, which we'll discuss tomorrow about this. But anyway, that is where we are today. So we went from a separate agency 50 years ago to today, to a combined agency, and now to an agency that's really jumbled up. And we were, even when I was there, we weren't structured legally, and I fought it all those years trying to get it legally, but we never did. So that's sort of the history of where we were. And as Paula said, we've gone from we have 50% of the counselors that we had, when I was there, and the numbers are way down, and a lot of it there's a good explanation, and a lot of it there's not. So we're going to move forward with our panel now. So that's the history of Tennessee. So what can we learn from that? And what do our panel members, what can they offer in terms of specialized services and service delivery model? I first give you Dick Davis from Blindness Inc. in Minnesota, a good friend of mine.
Well, darn, that Terry kind of reconstructs history. I remember a fellow by the name of Al Spooner, who used to work for us, came down here to the Tennessee State Convention, came back and said, I met this guy called Terry Smith, and he says you and I, he says he and you saved rehabilitation. And I said, well, that's kind of interesting. I don't know why he's going around talking about stuff like that, but he said, did you really save rehabilitation? I said, yeah, of course, you know. And after that, he was very impressed. But so I don't know who to blame for that. You know, I mean, I think every time I see Terry Smith, I say I raise the issue, and I don't know what he does. You know, maybe he raises the issue myself. But that is very, very true. We did one of the things we did for sure is we aligned the agencies for the blind with the National Federation of the Blind, and that relationship has continued to this day, and we have all benefited from it. Well, the Chinese say, if you save somebody's life, you're responsible for them for the rest of their life, and I kind of feel that way about rehabilitation. So, so it was kind of sad to hear, you know, some of the presentation by the VR director here in the state. I thought, you know, oh my Lord, things have fallen on hard times, and I say that not with unkindness, but I think, you know, I think, you know, Southerners have this expression, you know, kind of bless their heart. And that was the thought I kind of had, like, okay, these people need some help. So that's why I volunteered, you know, if there needs to be training on informed choice, I'd be happy to come down here and work with Christina on doing that. But anyway, okay, so what can we learn about what has happened to rehabilitation over the years? Well, in the early 1940s, rehabilitation was, I think it's 1942, Lucy can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 1942 we had the Rehabilitation Act passed for the first time, and that included blind people. But after a while, after a number of years, you know, we definitely, you know, the Federation noticed that no blind people were being rehabilitated. And that's true, because rehabilitation agencies were determining that blind people were not capable of gainful employment, which is no surprise to some of you that people would figure that. Okay, and then at that particular point, we pushed to have a change in the federal law which allowed separate agencies for the blind in each state. And so that caught on, and for many years we had commissioners for the blind and rehab, you know, services commissions in many states, and that worked fine. And now, of course, you know, brilliant minds at the top have decided, well, we could combine things. We have all kinds of economy of scale. You know, this will work better, and everybody get better service and all that kind of stuff. And it's the same old, you know, nightmare coming around again. So, but why did the rehab agencies at the very beginning, those combined rehab agencies, why did they not work? Well, for a simple reason, and that is traditional rehabilitation believes in a thing, is based on a thing called residual functional capacity. And to simplify it, it means, what do you got left? So if you're totally blind, you ain't got nothing left. You don't have any vision left. You know, so as a general rule, what happens is the combined agencies tend to focus on low vision and trying to make the best out of your low vision, and they don't really know what to do with real blindness, you know, because they know vision and that's all they know. So if you got some usable vision left, maybe they can figure out some stuff that you can do with it. Maybe they stick you into a job where vision doesn't matter all that much, and those are usually pretty low-level jobs and very high-level, or maybe buy you a CCTV and so on and so forth. But they don't They don't really deal with blind people. And this is, of course, work with the blind. You know, it's an actual profession. Those of us who've been in it, as I have, for 48 years or less, realize it's a genuine profession. And my friend there, Casey Owens, asked a question earlier that seemed to be incomprehensible, you know, to the VR director here. But it was really a simple question. It is, you know, basically what you got going for, you know, people who need to learn how to read and write and function and get around and stuff like that, because that's what rehab agencies for the blind do. Now, general rehab it kind of has its way, you know, it's kind of a simpler deal. You know, essentially most of the work in rehabilitation people, somebody in a car accident, for example, or somebody, you know, who has another disability, is done by the medical profession. And then they kind of send the person to rehab, and rehab says, okay, what you got left, you know, how can we work with that, and so on and so forth. And so they do vocational evaluation, and they determine what a person can still do, and they steer that person in that direction. And sometimes that, you know, just involves a different kind of job, and sometimes it involves college or vocational training or whatever. On the other hand, when you lose your eyesight, you can't do anything. I mean, to be quite honest, you can't get around, you can't cook, you can't use computers, you can't read, you can't write, you can't work, you can't, you know, fix your light switches at home. You can't do anything. So in blindness rehabilitation, we know that the essential core services in blindness rehabilitation are to teach people how to function non-visually through some methods that the National Federation of the Blind and other, you know, entities that serve blind people have developed over the years. You know, this should not be rocket science to somebody in the field of rehabilitation, but oddly enough, it seems to be. So, you know, before you can go out and get yourself a job, you gotta have all this blindness stuff together. You know, our agency in Minnesota understands that. They're putting most of their money into adjustment to blindness training, and then what's left over goes into college, because, you know, you can get Pell Grants, you can get all kinds of college funding, but you can't get adjustment to blindness training. So they made that their priority, which is good, which is what should happen here. So you know, blindness rehabilitation is a different thing. But then you have people like the person who followed me. I used to be director of services for blind in Minnesota, and I was followed by a person who thought all blind people need is a job. And so that was all they wanted to do, is just find a blind person a job doing something or other. And guess what? They failed miserably because they didn't address the issue of blindness skills training of that. The second thing, as you all well know, again, I'm preaching to the choir, a big problem is confidence. You know, you lose your eyesight, you get beat up all over the place. You know, people treat you like you're an invalid, your kids treat you like an invalid, you know, your parents treat you like an invalid, everybody else treats you like an invalid. You go out in public, you think everybody's watching you as you eat. I mean, there's all that kind of psychological and emotional stuff, which is perfectly normal, by the way, for anybody who loses their eyesight. I mean, it's normal to go through this stuff, but you got to have somebody who can build up your confidence and say, yeah, you can do this, yeah, you can do that. And you got to do that, you got to have somebody who knows about what blind people can do. You can't have a rehab professional that doesn't know this stuff, you know, rehabilitate blind people. And any money that they spend is going to be wasted because they don't know anything about blindness. You know, I often the analogy sometimes, okay, if you had to have brain surgery, would you want it done by A, brain surgeon, or B, a general practitioner? It's not a hard question to ask, but, you know, ultimately rehab seems to have trouble figuring that out. So it's not about that. You got to have people who understand blindness. You got to have people who are trained in blindness, who understand that blindness rehabilitation is a different kind of rehabilitation. And as we slide more into this workforce movement, and everybody thinks it's all jobs, and then you get into stuff like, you know, at this, you know, rehab or training center here where they're talking about, you know, blindness skills is some sort of supportive service. It's not a supportive service. It's the central service that you need. You get that stuff taken care of it. You're a successful blind person. You can go to college. I mean, you don't need a special training program for the blind or the disabled or anything else. That's what we created the community college systems for. You can send somebody to that or regular college and so on and so forth. And if they know the adaptive skills, if they know the technology, if they know how to travel effectively, that's what they can do. So again, I'm kind of preaching to the choir. I hope some of the rehab people are actually around to hear this. But I want you to know, the second thing is informed choice. Informed choice is very, very important. People have a right to choose their vocational goal. They have a right to choose the services that they want. They have a right to choose where they get those services and the conditions under which they receive those services. That is not a privilege thing. That is not a thing an agency can say, you don't get that. Now, there is a protection. The counselor has to sign off on that. So if you come up with something that's truly wackadoodle, and nobody in the right mind would do that, they should probably say, well, why don't you go where you think this here? But, ultimately, it's your choice. And if you have blind people who can make choices, you have blind people who can get jobs, and you have blind people who can succeed in jobs. But if you have blind people who don't know how to do that stuff and are dependent, you got nothing. Thank you.
No questions yet. No, you're good. There will be.
Yeah, just drop it.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Lucy Mellahan. You probably know me as Lucy Alexander. I'm a native of Tennessee. And I am super. I think so.
Yes.
I might can yell loud enough, huh? Are we ready?
Here comes Josh.
What was that?
He's turning you up, I think.
Turning me up.
We got unplugged.
All right, if you find a cord, don't unplug it.
So Weekend of Technology. Charity never faileth, but technology does.
Amen.
All right, so I'm a native of Tennessee, and I'm super proud to be with you this weekend. It has been 8 years before I have been on the floor of the NFB of Tennessee State Convention, and I'm excited to be here. See, I think it took me about 16 hours to get here, all the way from New Mexico. And how did I get out to New Mexico? Well, let me give you a little bit of my background. I did work for the Division of Rehabilitation Services of Tennessee for 9 years as a general caseload carrying counselor. And then I wised up and went to work for Terry Smith. And I was an itinerant rehabilitation teacher for the blind in Northwest Davidson County and all those counties north and west of Davidson County. And I loved my job. I was a portable vocational rehabilitation center for the blind and got to teach everything. But most importantly, I was able to teach people the importance of developing skills so that they can be independent. They have a choice, and you have a choice. You do. I didn't like the drive time, and I thought I could be more effective if I were in a center. The director for the New Mexico Commission for the Blind Orientation Center came up. I applied and got the position. It is a structured discovery cane travel center, and I've been privileged to be part of the commission's management team as a deputy director for the past 7 years. I've learned a lot in that time, and I'm telling you, all the time I tell my students, if you are blind and you are in New Mexico, you have died and gone to blind people's heaven. So Christina texted me and she said, hey, do you want to come brag about New Mexico? And I said, sure I do. But we got to go back to the beginning. In the year before the Commission for the Blind was formed, blind services were part of a combined agency. That agency closed 4 blind people and successful employment. But because of the work of blind people in New Mexico, including the National Federation of the Blind, led by Uncle Art Shriver, known to some of you as Westinghouse, he covered the civil rights movement in the South, but he lost his sight and thankfully was in New Mexico at the time. And he's been a strong advocate for us. He's the director of our board, our commission board. So the commission was formed in 1986. We have all your, and Dr. Fred Schroeder was our first executive director. Our director now is Greg Trapp. He is the most tenured blind services director in the country, serving us now for 20 years. Every other director of agencies in New Mexico has lost their jobs when governors have changed. But we have all your typical services. We have vocational rehabilitation, independent living, BEP. We have 8 counselors in the state. Our state is 6 times larger than Tennessee, and we have 1/3 the people. So we have the same number of counselors you do, serving about 360 people. That's about half of the consumers served in Tennessee. Our average wage for closures for last year, I'll announce this because Paula did, was $19.41 per hour. We believe blind people can perform competitive employment. I have literally sat in meetings when the average wage was announced at more than $28 an hour. Okay, so we also have an emergency eye care program that we run in conjunction with the University of New Mexico. We have a Newsline program that was started by Dave Andrews, yes, and it was the first one in the country, wasn't it?
It was.
It was the first one in the country, so I believe we had that, in 1989? Yep. Newsline? Yeah, Newsline. I'm always amazed at the people who were in New Mexico, and I'm deferring to Dick Davis because he was there. He was the first competent director of the Orientation Center, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. We also have a Technology for Children program, and so we begin serving children, certainly under the age of 14, and we provide assistive technology equipment to that child so that the child can take that equipment home and use it all year long. School systems retain possession of that equipment, but we believe strongly that children need to learn from a very early age how to use technology because the use of technology is in every position that we have in employment. We have an assistive technology unit. It is staffed with assistive technology specialists. We perform our own evaluations, provide our own equipment, training on that equipment, maintenance. There's no fighting for SMAs for JAWS. You need it, we purchase it. We also provide troubleshooting for your computer when it gets a virus. There's somebody to come help you, but virus protection is automatically loaded on your system. I'm seeing our students from time of referral for an evaluation to time of delivery of equipment, about 6 to 8 weeks.
That's better than a year.
I was told to contrast. Okay, we have a skill center in Albuquerque. So this is our main population center, and people can come in and get Braille training, assistive technology training, home management training, and then also they have staff that travel across the state that provide services to our youth. So when the school's not providing orientation and mobility or Braille or assistive technology, we do it. I operate the Orientation Center. This is a comprehensive rehabilitation program for the blind. I like to say we're an attitude factory. We teach problem solving, planning, and self-confidence through teaching you how to learn Braille, to read and write Braille, to learn to walk around independently with a cane. And before you finish cane travel, you need to complete an out-of-town route. Home management, you'll be cooking a meal for about 30 people before you graduate. Assistive technology, if you have any desire to go to college, I want to see a PowerPoint presentation before you walk out my door. Personal management, this is where we do all kinds of things. We train you on your smartphones and handheld devices, but we also teach you about community resources, blindness resources. We write resumes, conduct mock interviews, and we plan the next steps for your future. We also have a physical education class and activities about once a week. Some of our activities include horseback riding, hiking, climbing anything I can get us to climb. They call me the monkey. We go skiing. We have been whitewater rafting, kayaking, water skiing. There's not a lot of water out there in the deserts. We also travel. We attend the state convention. It is a requirement.
What?
A requirement to attend the National Federation of the Blind New Mexico State Convention. As the commission, we send more than 130 people to the convention in our state each year. We are slated to send more than, I think it's 13 this year to the national convention. And if you're a consumer of our agency and you want to go to the national convention and you haven't been, we sponsor you. It looks like we will also be possibly taking our Students in Transition to Employment program. That's a program for 14 to 21-year-olds. At the Orientation Center, we have 2 days of blindness skills training. We have 2 days of work, and we have 2 days of community-based skills training. And it looks like we might be going to Las Vegas. So if you see me trailing around a bunch of teenagers, say a prayer with me. Yes, and we will be under shades. Because we train people for your worst sight day, not your best. You already know how to function in your life with the sight you got. I want you to know how to function. If there's bright lights, no lights. If you wake up one day and you can't see, I want you to have the confidence to know that you can go anywhere you want to go. This doesn't happen without having staff, top to bottom, bottom, top to train. All of our counselors, our independent living providers, assistive technology specialists, they all come to the center and receive 8 weeks of blindness skills training. And if you work at the center, it's 12 weeks. We had one of our recent staff trainees tell me, he said, I think about you all the time, and I'm so grateful for the training that I got there. Even in the middle of the night when I get up to get a drink of water, I don't turn on the lights. I use my blindness skills, and I know that I can relate to my consumers even though I'm a sighted person. He gets it. Just get some stuff.
Sorry. How come you're skipping?
We partner with the New Mexico School for the Blind and Visually Impaired with the National Federation of the Blind in New Mexico regularly. Each year in Alamogordo, where we are, also with the the New Mexico State University Alamogordo campus, we have a white cane walk to raise awareness about the white cane. New Mexico was the first state to pass the white cane law in 1967. We're really proud of that. It not only gives us access to the highways and byways and says that we don't have to be insane to want to walk around independently, but it also gives us access to buildings and employment. And those of you who use guide dogs, it was the pre-ADA. It was the pre-ABA. We work with NFBTN to provide seamless transition from school to your next steps in life, whether that be a further educational training opportunity or it's the world of work. I view my job as a rehabilitation professional for the past 20 years is to be the first person you meet who believes in you, who hopes when you don't have hope, who can hope for you until you can hope for yourself. Yes. Because I know each person who walks through my door is capable. Blindness does not have to be the barrier that limits you. If you don't get training, it absolutely can be the barrier that limits you, but it does not have to be. I've had people walk through my door and say, I thought you were going to teach me how to make a sandwich. Sure, I'll teach you how to make a sandwich, but I'll teach you all kinds of other things too. And you're going to use a radial alarm saw. You're going to cook meals. And then when you walk into a job interview and you sit down across from the person interviewing you, you will know that you are able to do many things that that person has probably never done, with or without sight.
Amen.
If you believe that Tennessee has vocational rehabilitation services that are top-notch, I want to learn from you. If you believe that there is something in this state that needs to be improved, I want to stretch my hand across to you and to help you across that river. Coming across that river can be scary. It can be difficult. It can be frustrating. But I'm telling you, I'm on the other side. And it's now time for me to turn back and reach out my hand and offer help. I have one other thing I want to say. This is really important to me. 8 years ago, I stood before you. I was 38 weeks pregnant. That weekend, my wonderful husband, do you hear sarcasm?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
He had called the police again, stating that I was an unfit parent. I can't tell you how many times I've had CPS or CYFD at my house. Child Protective Services. I tell them if they'll just tell me when they're coming, I'll cook them dinner. I presented the resolution to promote the Equal Rights for Blind Parents bill. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for passing it. If you didn't know, that's how the Stones River chapter got started. I was going through a divorce and I was told I would never get custody of my child. I have custody of it. We are fighting this battle in New Mexico. We're at the bottom of every good list and at the top of every bad list, I can tell you. In our state, CYFD, which is Children, Youth, and Family Services, they have in their policies and procedures that only a medical doctor can certify a blind person as a fit parent. It's wrong, and it will be changed. And I thank Tennessee for passing a fabulous parents' rights bill. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I've already told Christine, our president, Christina Cliff, that she would pay for putting me behind something like that. And I do intend that. We'll have to make sure I need a volunteer for something. All right, my name is Stephanie Jones, and I am the communication skills instructor for an agency in Memphis, Clovernook Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And so my talk this afternoon is about from the perspective of working for an agency that is working with our current VR system. I've just heard Terry Smith talk about the 50 years of history. I've just heard Blind Inc. talk about their program and informed choice and how we need to know what that means and how we need to know what is available to us and how we need to have a foundation of independent skills before we can move into career. And we just heard from Miss Lucy about the program that's in New Mexico. And I stand here at my first convention. I stand here, hold on. I stand here at my first convention. I've learned so much. My body is bursting with all these things that I want to take back to Memphis, want to give my students. God help my class next week because they will be working. Okay? I will make sure that they can send you all the thank you notes. All right? That's where I stand. And I'm sitting here wondering why I have had to just listen to New Mexico stand in Tennessee and tell me how services can be done in my own state. When we have people in this room who are capable of leading that charge and making sure that along with New Mexico's offer of assistance, that we can turn around and help the next state. I work for an agency where every day I have the privilege of taking someone who is newly blind, visually impaired. I don't get to offer them independence building. I don't get to teach them how to be independent in their home so that they can turn around and be independent in their career. I go straight to vocational career. I get to make recommendations for products, for equipment, and be confined by numbers. That's disheartening from a standpoint. My students will tell you that our lesson plan might be X, Y, and Z, but instead we are talking about how to organize your kitchen. We are talking about how do you go to the grocery store. We are talking about these things that affect their lives before we can even start thinking about going to a job. Because if you can't take care of yourself and you don't build that confidence that you can do the things that you used to do, that can fulfill you, that allows you to give back to your community. And sometimes that means educating the VR counselor on what can and cannot be done. I tell my students, you cannot get away with anything with me because guess what? I went through the program myself. I sat in that same seat because we haven't bought new chairs since I was a student. 10 years ago, we still sitting in the same chairs. So I went through it. I already know what games can be played. I've already done it. And so you can't get it past me. And I think sometimes the fact that I can relate to my students makes for a better experience. Because not only am I telling them what they can do, I know for a fact that it can be done. So from an agency standpoint, we need to protect our blind services. We need to protect the relationships. We need to help VR build those relationships with these services and the agency providers. So are we going in with unrealistic expectations? Are we not doing the things that have been asked for us by our counselors? And if we don't understand, we need to be asking those questions, not only of the agencies that we're working with, but also the counselors. Find your mentors, use your resources in your communities to help you navigate through these programs.
Any ready for questions?
So our timekeeping is a little off whack. As you guys know, we are supposed to be doing the nominating committee at 4:45. And we have one more presentation. Is Becky Allen in the room? Wonderful. So we're going to unfortunately have to hold questions and maybe later on after general session is over, if some of the panelists can stick around just for a minute. If people have questions, we can do it, but we're trying to get everything wrapped up by 5 so we can get to banquet. So Becky Allen is with Disability Rights of Tennessee. She is the Client Assistance Program Coordinator, or Advocate, I should say. I should know that better. And she's been there forever day. So her title is Advocating for People. It flipped over. Advocating for people with disabilities today, tomorrow, and in the future. So welcome, Becky Allen, and we'll go from here.
That's a hard act to follow. I'm just going to tell you. Okay. You got, everybody hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
This sounds good? Okay. We will get going here. I was scheduled for 20 minutes. I know we're running behind, so I'm going to try to get through things a little faster if I can at all. As Christina said, I am with Disability Rights Tennessee, and just to give you a little bit of background about our agency, several of you stopped and talked with me. We had a table outside here in the exhibit hall last night or yesterday evening, daytime evening, and then again today. And several of you stopped and asked about who we were, what we did. So I had an opportunity to share some of that information. But I want to give you a little bit more details today and talk about then how we also intersect with the VR program and with the clients of VR services. Disability Rights Tennessee is actually known as the Protection and Advocacy System for the state of Tennessee. This system, the P&A system, is nationwide. Every state and territory has a protection and advocacy system. These were put into place back in the 70s, and they came about as a result of, a lot of you will remember, a young Geraldo Rivera. He's still out there doing his thing. He's still doing exposés. I don't know. It's tired, Christina says.
You can do it.
Oh, Christina.
I didn't realize that was me. My bad. Whoa.
Okay, am I back on? Okay. So at any rate, what happened is Geraldo got word from a doctor who had recently been let go from an institution on Staten Island in New York. It was called Willowbrook Institute. It was a state institution for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And in 1973, this is when this happened. So he was able to, this doctor who had been let go, had been accused of trying to help individuals and talk to parents and convince parents to try to help get conditions made better. And it wasn't happening. So he contacted Geraldo. He went in and smuggled in the cameras under dark of night kind of thing and did some video and tried to talk with individuals. And then this aired on the New York ABC News, which he was affiliated with. Needless to say, there was an outrage that came about as a result of that, because the conditions were horrible, health and the squander and the lack of care that these individuals were receiving. Individuals from very young ages to older adults were housed in this facility. They had multiple buildings. And it was not a good situation. So that sparked concern in Washington, D.C. And as a result of that, in 1975, at the federal level, Congress created the Protection and Advocacy System. And it was set up that every state would have a P&A system. So that is how we became a part of the Protection and Advocacy System. In 1983, actually, we were put into place here in the state of Tennessee, named as the Protection Advocacy System. Our agency was. And pardon me if I'm trying to kind of zoom through a few things here, so pardon me if I seem a little discombobulated at times. The P&A was developed to only really serve individuals with developmental disabilities, because that's how it came into being. Developmental Disabilities Assistance and Bill of Rights Act of 1975. It has grown over the years considerably to far more services. We now provide services to individuals with all types of disabilities, all types of needs, all ages, genders. There is no discrimination that occurs in that. So there are 57 of the protection and advocacy agencies across the country. As I said, every state and every territory has such a system. The P&A system was designed to work under the various disability laws. So for example, the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Rehabilitation Act, Fair Housing Act, Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act, Civil Rights of Institutionalized Persons Act, a lot of these to go through. Architectural Barriers Act, and the Help America Vote Act. So those are the different laws that we operate under. Something that makes our agencies unique to a lot of the advocacy agencies around the country is that we are a legally based agency. So our agency, we do have a staff of attorneys who guide us in all of the work that we do. And we also, the P&As, have an access authority that other agencies do not generally have. And this is ensured through the federal mandate that the P&As have broad access to the records of individuals with disabilities and the facilities in which they reside. So that means we are able to get the records for individuals who bring concerns to us. We're able to access their records if they live in for example, a regional mental health institute, or they're in a school system, or they reside in a group home setting, wherever it may be, wherever they are a resident. And we're also entitled to reasonable access to those facilities. So our advocates can go into settings such as a hospital, a nursing home, in some cases in the jails, depending what the situations are, the regional mental health institutes, group homes. Our advocates can go into those settings to advocate for individuals and investigate the concerns that they're seeing. So I mentioned before that we were developed in 1983, but before that, what started, that kind of set up this system for Tennessee was that in 1978, a group of parents and professionals had attended a conference and really got recharged and decided they needed to do something to make a difference for their students with disabilities. And they worked hard and set up an organization, and it was called the Education Advocacy for Children with Handicaps. And the acronym was EACH. And that was in 1978. So I know you've mentioned that NFB of Tennessee is celebrating their 50th anniversary. Our agency just celebrated our 40th anniversary last year. So we've been around a while. But there have been changes over the years. We've gone through several name changes. Some of you may know us as Disability Law and Advocacy Center of Tennessee, or DLAC. But we have now been, since 2014, we have been known as Disability Rights Tennessee. Even though we've changed our name, we still provide the same types of services. Some important things, just to want to bring out a couple of cases that were known as really landmark cases for our agency. As I mentioned, we are a legally based agency. So there have been some lawsuits that our agency has filed. Generally, we always work at trying to resolve issues at the lowest level possible. But when a lawsuit is needed, that is the route our legal team will go. One of those was called Lane versus Tennessee. And in this situation there were actually a group of 6 plaintiffs with mobility disabilities who were not able to access Tennessee's court system. One of those individuals used a wheelchair and was forced to crawl up the steps in order to reach a courtroom. And the state of Tennessee really did not respond to corrective action. So what happened with that was in 2004, the U.S. Supreme Court ruling resulted in changes to the policies and practices of Tennessee's judicial branch. So that was a huge case that was entered into. So there were a lot of changes that occurred, not only those physical access, but also looking at other modifications, and including requiring the use of sign language interpreters in the Tennessee courts, and that's actually in the state statutes that is required to be there. Beyond being in the ADA, it's also there as a requirement. It's a little stronger even in the Tennessee state law than it is in the ADA. Another case was known as Brown versus Tennessee, and this one a lot of people know as the waiting list case. But this was for this was a class action lawsuit on behalf of over 6,000 people with intellectual disabilities who were on a waiting list to be enrolled in the Medicaid program that would pay for services necessary to remain in the community. And as a result of that case, more than 3,000 people from that waiting list were able to then receive services. So those were a couple of really large, well-known cases that our agency has engaged in the past. There have been other lawsuits that have come across since then, but those are the two ones that seem to have the strongest impact and more systemic impact, I would say. Some of the things I mentioned, that we are a legally based agency, so that does give us some, I shouldn't say powers, but it does give us some ability to do things that other advocacy groups are not able to do. Anyone who has a disability and is in the state of Tennessee or receiving services in the state of Tennessee is eligible for our services. We provide information and referral services. We provide self-advocacy assistance. We have advocates that conduct investigations of abuse and neglect. We provide direct advocacy services, so to assist individuals getting the services that they need. And we have legal representation, as well as providing education and training, outreach, like what we're doing here today is providing outreach, giving you information about our agency. And we also have public policy advocacy. So we have one of our attorneys is our public policy advocate, and he is actually down on the Capitol Plaza, or the plaza, follows the legislation and keeps us all alerted and sends out a weekly disability watch about what is going on. We have 3 offices across the state. Our main office is in Nashville. That's where our administrative personnel and our legal team primarily is based there. And then we have also offices in Memphis and Knoxville. And all 3 of our offices have advocacy staff. And I am one of those advocates. And just to give you an idea of some of the work that we do, we are required by our mandate, by our federal mandate, to set our priorities, because we're not a very large organization. We can't do every type of work that is needed to protect the rights of individuals with disabilities in Tennessee. There's just not enough of us, and there's not enough funding provided to us to do that. So we're required to set priorities and determine the critical needs of citizens with disabilities in the state of Tennessee. So to manage that, we conduct surveys, focus groups, community conversations to gather information about what the needs are of individuals with disabilities. And we get that directly from individuals with disabilities, as well as their family members, caregivers, and other professionals who work in the field. And then we determine from that what are going to be our areas of work. So to just give you some ideas here of some of the things that we're doing in this period of time, we set them up to be from 2018 to 2020. So we have a time period there that these will be our areas of work. I mentioned abuse and neglect already. That is something we will always do. That is one of our standard grant that we follow. We also do educational support work. We have advocates who work in the education arena primarily with K through 12 education. We also have what is known as the Client Assistance Program. And the Client Assistance Program was put into place through Rehab Act when it was amended in 1984. And I am the advocate with the Client Assistance Program, one of the 3 advocates in the state, as Christine mentioned. And we are in place to provide assistance to individuals who are either applicants or clients of vocational rehabilitation. So our role is to assist when there are problems. So for those of you who were asking questions earlier about what your services for VR and had questions about what you were or were not receiving, those are the kinds of services that we can also assist with in helping to resolve those issues and trying to help get those things worked out for you. Everyone who has ever been a client of VR should have been informed about the Client Assistance Program. For every individual that I spoke with yesterday or today who mentioned to me that they were working with VR, I am sad to say that not a single individual indicated that they had ever been told about the Client Assistance Program. So that is something that we will be also discussing a little bit more with VR, just to be sure that clients are aware that we exist. Because if we don't know there's a problem, we can't help with it. And there are things that we can do. A big part of our job is that we are responsible for knowing what the federal law says. So we don't just look at what the Tennessee VR policy says. We go back and we look at the federal law to begin with and look at what are the requirements from the Rehab Act as amended. And we look at the regulations that were written to explain the Rehab Act. And then we look at the Tennessee VR policy and look at how that intersects with the Rehab Act. It should be in line with the Rehab Act. However, there are times where we found there have been issues and that policy has not been in line like it should be. And we've worked with VR to get that adjusted and corrected so that it is accurate. We also work just with individuals who have problems. We can attend VR meetings with individuals. We make calls to counselors and supervisors. I've had calls with Paula. I've had calls with Amy Rader, who's the assistant director of VR. We don't hesitate to talk with whomever we need to talk with to try to address issues for individuals. So one thing that you all can hopefully do is to help get that word out too, to anyone you know who may be working with VR, who's a client, especially if they're having any issues. If you can help connect them with us, that is something that we can assist with, is making those connections and reviewing with them what their rights and responsibilities are as a VR client, and reviewing information about what's in the law. And that is an important thing. I know one thing that was brought up today that Dick Davis talked about was the importance of informed choice. And that is something that we continually stress to individuals. And we also talk with counselors about the importance of informed choice. We also are always talking about just what the purpose of the VR program is. One thing that was added when the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act was signed into law in 2014 was an issue stating that not only does VR is in place to help individuals prepare for, secure, retain, or regain employment, but it's also there to help individuals to advance in employment. And there is a big emphasis on that. I had one individual tell me yesterday that she had received services from VR several years ago, probably 15 years ago or more, in school, in post-secondary education. So she said, so they won't help me with that again. And that is not accurate. If the individual, if her employment goal is changed or she needs to make a change, VR can provide post-secondary training a second time around if the individual is needing to make a change. And it's justified why that's needed. It can certainly be done. So those are all things that we're trained to know that and to help an individual understand that process. So we can help someone through that and help guide them and help them better understand what their rights are, but also what their responsibilities are as a VR client. So I would encourage you to, help people become more familiar with us if possible. Another area that I don't want to shortchange is our area in access work, disability discrimination work. We have a lot of things that we do in assisting individuals. Primarily, this would be things that would fall under the Americans with Disabilities Act, such as access to programs or services. So sometimes it's structural accessibility, like not being able to get into a building, some of those, all those kinds of things, lack of accessible parking, not being able to get through the door, whatever it may be. Sometimes it's difficulty with access to a program, not being able to access a business's goods or services. We have had, for instance, individuals, I've had an individual that I helped he was having difficulty receiving his documentation from a federal government program. He couldn't get them to send it to him in large print. We went directly to their Office of Civil Rights and discussed with them the importance of this, and he was able to get that in line. But he was having difficulty doing that on his own. We help individuals all the time who are needing sign language interpreters. We've had several individuals who are deafblind that we've worked with as well in those areas of making sure they're getting the appropriate services there. So those are some of the things that we provide. I just want to make sure that you're aware of. So if you have any questions, hopefully hang on just a second. Hopefully people were able to pick up some information out there. The other thing you can do is you can always just Google Disability Rights Tennessee, and it will take you to our website and you can find information about our program. We cover the entire state, even though we only have 3 offices, we cover the entire state. So our region covers the easternmost 36 counties, from Chattanooga all the way up into the east. So we have our offices cover everyone. So don't hesitate to call us. We go where we need to go to.
All righty, well, thank you. So one last question from me though. So the question would, as we as an organization look to improve vocational rehab services,
We have no problem in spreading the word because we love to talk about the CAP program. I'm sure that will spread far and wide, but we look forward to hopefully having DRT support in our other efforts to make them do right. So whether that's through CAP or other methods.
Okay.
So I know that's not your call,
Well,
but
yeah,
hopefully you can bring that back home.
Keep us in the loop, please do. Because we need to be aware. Like I heard some things today that I didn't know. You know, some of the information that was shared that I didn't realize, and some of the information Terry Smith shared about the changes that were made over the years. I've been with DRT for 9 years now, almost 9 years next month. But I learned some things today that I didn't know in changes that had occurred in the past. I would venture to say that some others in our agency are not aware of those as well. So please keep us in the loop, and we would certainly be interested in helping in whatever way we can. As Christina said, some of that's above my pay grade in looking at some of those kinds of things. But at the same time, yes, please do keep us in mind.
Well, thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you.
All righty, so we are going to do a quick, we have, Dick Davis has been ever so patient. We skipped him this morning and we've moved him around helter-skelter, but he's going to talk about Blind Inc. Right after that, we are going to go into the nominating committee. So if you are a voting member of this organization, we need you here for elections. And we hope to be out of here no later than about 5:15 so y'all can get dressed up for a banquet.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll try to make this real quick. I'm going to talk about Blind Incorporated first, since Dan Wenzel, our director, paved my way here. He probably would want me to do that. And then I'm going to talk about a second thing, which is that which is about the employment programs at the NFB convention this year. Okay, first of all, Blind Incorporated is one of the 3 NFB training centers. You know about Louisiana, you've had people go there. You know about Colorado, you've had people go there. I think it's been a while since Tennessee had somebody come to Blind Incorporated. We do have a fellow by the name of Casey Owens who wants to go. And I want to know, would you guys be willing to get behind Casey and help him come to Blind Incorporated? I would certainly hope so. Thank you very much. On a personal note, I mean, you're welcome to talk to me about my history. I've been a state agency director. I've run a training center, the one that Lucy inherited. I used to be a rehab counselor for 9 years. I was also a rehabilitation teacher, orientation and mobility specialist, rehab supervisor. So I've been around. I started in this business 48 years ago. I hate to say I'm that old, but I am. And today, in commemoration of your 50th anniversary, I am wearing y'all socks. My kids are from North Carolina, and they bought me a set of nice blue socks that say y'all on them. So I thought I would wear them. Seemed very appropriate. Now in the North, people think they say Yale, and I don't mind that. If people want to think I went to Yale, that's fine. I'm not going to disabuse all the Yankees, of that fact. But we know what they mean here. So, anyway, Blind Incorporated is in Minneapolis. We are the smallest of the 3 NFB training centers. We do that on purpose. We live we work actually in a large mansion, the Charles S. Pillsbury Mansion. It's an absolutely gorgeous place to go through training. But we like it is because the Pillsbury family raised their kids there. And so we wanted our director, Joyce Scanlon, initial director, president of the NFB of Minnesota for many years, she wanted a place where people raise their kids, kind of a large house. And it's kind of a large house, like 30,000 square feet. So it's kind of a big house. But if you call us up and if you ask for information, or if you come there, or, if you ask Casey, one of the things you'll find is we're very much a family. You're a very non-institutional setting. So that is where we do our classes. Our students stay in absolutely beautiful high-rise apartments. at the University of, right next door to the University of Minnesota, so that they can engage in all of the things in Dinkytown and all the other activities there. This is a place with a yoga room, with an exercise, with free video games, with free all kinds of other stuff there. Unfortunately, not a swimming pool yet, so that's kind of a bummer. But it's an absolutely beautiful place, and it's right on the light rail train line, so you'd be able to commute to Blind Incorporated on light rail train and bus. So, and we have our students off-site because we want people to get used to commuting. We want our students to go places. Our apartments are staffed 24/7 by a lovely lady from Ohio by the name of Rachel Kuntz, and she does a terrific job for us, and is very much into getting people out to do different activities. We're going to the Spam Museum next weekend. There is a Spam Museum. I know you all love Spam. But anyway, there is such a thing, and it's kind of fascinating. We're going to go there. We just finished going dog sledding. Dog sledding is super fun. And then this summer we'll go to the water park. We'll go camping. We go a lot of that kind of stuff. Now that's the recreational part. We're not all fun and games. We happen to have, as my friend Lucille over there will testify, we have the best Braille teaching system in the world. That's the Codemaster Braille system. They like it so much down in New Mexico. They went ahead and adopted it. We now have the Colorado Center out to adopt it. We have not, has not quite yet, but they may get around to it. But it's a place where people say reading Braille is hard, learning Braille is hard. No. Our students learn the entire Braille code, and that's the modern version of Braille with all the contractions intact in 6 weeks to 2 months. And then to develop their Braille skills, they learn reading in something that is, their own choosing, because we customize the materials for them to read. So. And if you want to read about sports, you read about sports. If you want to read about romance, you read about romance. If you want to read about politics, you can read about politics. You can read whatever you want, because we believe that reading what you're interested in is going to help you build your Braille skills. And we integrate that Braille learning with Braille technology learning. So you're going to learn how to access not only Braille in the hard copy version, but you can learn how to do it electronically as well. We'll give you a firm grounding in technology, Apple computers, PCs, all that kind of stuff. We teach cane travel. We teach people how to ride the light rail trains. We teach buses, all that kind of stuff. We're just a short distance from downtown Minneapolis. There are all kinds of bars and other watering places, places, theaters, and all kinds of activities. It's a lovely place. Don't believe what they say about the weather. You want to keep in mind that if you flip Tennessee up on end, it's about 400 miles long. That's how far Minnesota is, north to south. We're in the southern quarter of it. And we're not in the northern quarter. That's the cold part. We're in the warm part. Relatively speaking, it is north, of course, but it's about the temperature of New Jersey, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, it's a great place. There's a lot of stuff to do, and it's a lot of fun. One feature that we can offer you is that if you come to our training center and you stick around for, say if you go through 9 months of training, you stick around for an additional 3 months, you become an automatic Minnesotan. And being an automatic blind Minnesotan, you can go to the University of Minnesota for free. For a bachelor's degree, for a master's degree, for a PhD degree. Because, any blind person who lives in Minnesota for a year and does not go into, any kind of college during that period of time can become a tuition-free person at the University of Minnesota. So if your rehab agency says, I don't know about that training, it's pretty expensive, say, how'd you like to save on tuition at the University of Minnesota? It's an excellent place. It has a lot of things. That is one advantage, that we happen to have here too. We're a lovely place. We have a lot of things to recommend us. I did put out some brochures. I have some cyber brochures, these little electronic thumb drives with me. If you hunt me down, I'll give you one of them. If you didn't get one earlier, I know quite a few of them disappeared. We're at www.blindink.org. Our phone number's on our brochures. Christina, I'm sure, can tell you how to get a hold of us. A lot of other people can tell you how to get a hold of us. We hope that you will consider us as your new friend, NFB Training Center, and we hope to see a lot of people from Tennessee there in the future. Okay, switching gears. I'm also the employment chair of the National Federation of Blind, and if you read the February Braille Monitor, you know about the strategic plan of the National Federation of Blind, and that employment is one of the 4 pillars of the strategic plan. So I'm going to have a really busy year ahead of me because I've got to implement, 1/4 of the strategic plan with the employment plan, and we're actually going to develop a presence, real professional people in the national office, who are going to work with people on employment. This year at the National National Convention in Las Vegas, we have a number of activities that I want to encourage you to attend. Probably the main one is our job fair or career fair, we've called it in the past couple of years. Career fair will have 45 employers. There'll be people who are pre-screened. They want to hire blind people. If they don't want to hire blind people, we don't want them there. So the rules is you want to hire blind people there. What kind of companies? Wells Fargo, TD Bank. We'll have Kellogg's, Cattle Creek. This year we'll have a whole bunch of big corporates that want. Facebook's going to come. A lot of other people you want to work for. They want to hire you. It should be relatively simple. You want to go to work, want to hire you, clean up your resume, do some employment prep training, and come and get a job with our help. We have a jobs listserv. You can get access to it on listserv at nfb.org or nfb.com. nfb.org, excuse me. You can get access to that. You should check out our job listings that appear there. A lot of good discussions on employment. Our job career fair at the NFB will be on July the 8th from 1 to 3 p.m. and there will be a period there for employers to interview individual people from 3:30 to 5. The day before that, from 1 to 5 p.m., we're going to have a job seeker seminar. We're going to teach you, how to get a job. That morning of the career, that would be on the 7th, the morning of the career fair on the 8th. We're going to have an employment committee meeting and a networking session so you can meet employers face to face. And we're going to have a training session for employers after that. And then the next day on the 9th, from 6 to 9 p.m. for people who are sick and tired of the jobs that they have and they want to move up in employment, we're going to have an upward mobility seminar. And all those things are going to be attended by employers who want to hire you. So don't tell me that nobody wants to hire blind people, because I don't believe it. The 70%, to me, there's no 70% unemployment rate of blind people. There is either 100% or a 0%, and it depends on whether you come and use our resources to get a job. If you do that, there's probably a 100% chance of you getting a job. If you don't do that, there's a 0% chance. So that's what we want to do and help you. We will also have our annual etiquette dinner for people who want to learn how to handle themselves in an employment situation or an interview situation when they're talking to employers. I think I should probably stop at this point. I don't know if the president wants me to answer any questions or not, but if she doesn't, I'm here. I'm pretty obvious. I'm the guy with the y'all socks. Come and look me up. Thank you.
All right. So we'd like to thank Dick Davis. I know for Blind Inc., it was a stretch to get him here, but because they knew what we were tackling this convention, they really made the effort to get somebody out here that was knowledgeable and that could really help guide the discussion and really educate us about service delivery models. So we appreciate Blind Inc. and all they do and their patience in moving around on the agenda. We look forward to having him a little bit longer, hopefully at Banquet. And if you need him, y'all know where to find him with the socks. So, well, that I can't help you with, but he'll find you because he knows you, Malika. Yeah, he's seen you. So we are going to move on to the last item of our agenda for today. So we are having 2 items shift to tomorrow morning, which is our ringing the bells of Braille literacy in Tennessee, and the Why I Am a Federationist piece will move to Sunday morning, so they are not forgotten. All right, so every year, and this is an odd numbered year, we have 3 positions that are up for elections, and I'm going to turn it over to our nominating committee chair, which is Terry Smith.
Okay, the nominating committee consisted of me as the chair, Curtis Tillman from Memphis, James Brown from Nashville, and Debbie Probst from the Northeast. And so we have 3 seats up. That is Greg Self's position, that is John Harris's position, and that is Shannon Hansen's position. And so John Harris has indicated that he does not wish to run for re-election. Shannon Hansen has indicated that she does not wish to run for re-election. Greg Self has indicated that he is willing to run. The nominating committee submits the following names for the 3 board positions. For slot number 1, Greg Self. For slot number 2, we have dang, my mind just went blank. Dr. Deborah Carter, and for slot number 3, Sharon Treadway. So that is the slate that we are submitting. I'll make a couple of comments. We had 5 from Middle Tennessee, 4 from West Tennessee, 3 from West Tennessee, and 3 from East Tennessee before. One of the things I do is when I chair these, I try to look at geographical distribution. I try to look at racial distribution. I try to look at sex distribution and gender. And so, with this slate, we shift 1 from Nashville to Memphis, which gives us 4 from Memphis, 4 from Nashville, 3 from the eastern part of the state. We pick up 1 female, and the minority ballot stays exactly as it is. So, so with that, Madam President, I'll move approval of the nominating committee report.
Do we have a motion?
Seconded by James Brown.
All those in favor of accepting the nominating committee report, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Woo! All right. So the slate of officers, we shall start with board position number 1, held by Greg Self, and nominated is Greg Self. The way we do it is we call 3 times for nominations from the floor, and you guys know how to do it. After the 3rd, we close, hopefully, and vote. So, first call, are there any nominations from the floor? Are there any other nominations from the floor? Are there any other nominations from the floor?
Madam President.
Josh.
A motion that nominations cease and Greg be elected by acclamation.
We have a motion to vote Greg Self in by acclamation, seconded by, I think it was Crystal. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, Greg, you have been elected. Congratulations. And due to time, we'll let him do his thank you speech maybe at Banquet. All righty. For the second position, which was held by John Harris, the nominating committee has placed Deborah Carter into consideration for election. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Are there any other nominations from the floor?
Madam President.
Are there any other nominations from the floor?
Madam President.
John Harris.
I move that nomination from Deborah Carter be elected by acclamation.
All right, we have a nomination of a motion by John Harris, seconded by Bessie Tubbs to vote Deborah Carter in by acclamation. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Dr. Carter. Can't wait to put these folks to work. Yes. In the third position, held by Shannon Hanson, the nominating committee has placed into consideration that of Sharon Treadway from the Nashville, Middle Tennessee area. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Are there any other nominations from the floor?
Motion.
Are there any other nominations from the floor?
Madam President,
Curtis Tillman.
I motion that the that the election be closed and Sharon Treadway.
Yes. All right, we have a motion to close by acclamation, and seconded by, who was the second? Teresa. All those, Melissa, sorry. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, congratulations. Welcome back, Sharon. We're going to enjoy having you back on the board again. I appreciate the service that all of you guys have done. And we have one last item to carry out before you head out, which is door prize, Miss Shannon. Shannon. Two.
Alrighty, guys. There we go. So I have a Outback gift card for $50, and that goes to Craig McFarland.
Craig, I need dinner.
Alrighty, Craig, will be there in a minute. And the next thing I have is do we have any techies in the house? Google Home Mini. And that goes to Mr. Terry Smith.
All righty, so we've had some great door prizes. We look forward to seeing you all guys, hopefully here at 7 with us being late. I'm not sure if they're going to be late turning this room over. So can I get a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. All right, got motions and seconds. All those in favor, leave out the room. We'll see you at 7 at Banquet.
Bye.